Sides. If you missed last night, don't worry, it's preserved for all eternity on YouTube for you to watch back at your leisure. And we still have 2 nights in which any kind of catastrophe or train wreck can happen. Tonight, it's all about activity. That's sports clubs and societies. We have over 8,000 memberships of these esteemed groups here on campus, all registered through the union website. So, what happens tonight is of huge importance to a massive part of the student community. We'll be talking to those standing for Activity Zone, for Surrey Society's Chair, for Team Surrey Chair, and for Vice President Activities. So, will snooker and darts become part of Team Surrey? Will Rugby Corner be designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site? All these questions and more will not be asked tonight. That's because I'm not asking the questions. We have a series of student chairs. Now, everybody chairing these debates over these 3 nights are volunteers from the student community. They've put themselves forward, they've been auditioned, and they have chosen the question to ask. They've gone through the manifestos, they put in a huge amount of work, and they're asking the questions on your behalf. If there's something that you want to know, then you can come along to Rubix. We've got a mic that we throw around, or you can tweet with a hashtag Surrey Decides. Thank you to everybody who engaged on Twitter last night and throughout the day today, especially those who used your real name. And to those of you who are hidden behind troll accounts, to paraphrase Olivia Colman, okay, so now it's time to go to Rubix. We're going to split the Activity Zone candidates into 2 groups because there's so many of them. But here is part 1 of the Activity Zone candidates. Now over to Rubix.
Chairing the debate for the Activity Zone, please welcome Irene Garcia.
Well, hello, Surrey, and welcome to the second night of question time. Are we excited? So tonight's debates are all centered around the Activity Zone, which is the area of the union that is responsible to dedicating and helping all students be engaged in societies and sports clubs, as well as being responsible of organizing varsity or societies awards ball and colours ball. So without further ado, let me introduce to you your candidates for the Activity Zone. Before we start, I'd like to mention that the debate tonight is in 2 parts because we have a lot of candidates. So this is the first part, and we'll be back for part 2. So another disclaimer, there is a candidate who did not submit a manifesto. His name is Emil Epifanov, so he will not be here tonight, but you can still vote for him. His name will be on the ballot paper. Thank you. So I'm going to ask the candidates now to introduce themselves. We will start on my far right, and we'll move towards the left.
Hi guys, my name's Dec. I'm a second-year politics student. I was a course rep last year. I'm currently the Vice President for Athletics and Cross Country. I also formally created my own 11-a-side intramural league this year. And so basically what I think I'd help you guys with activity and increase student satisfaction is 4 things on my manifesto. So I want to increase support for signatories. I want to increase promotion from beginners to bucks and what they're doing and when. I want to increase partnerships because I think there's a divide between societies and Team Surrey at the moment. And also a main point as well is I want to increase awareness of actually what's free on what free societies are there to do. Because, you know, budgets are tight, rent's high here, we need that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's how I think you should vote for Dec for Activity Zone, because Activity Zone is more than just movement.
Hi everyone, I am Jamal Ollie. I'm a second year theatre and performance student. I am currently the president of Theatre Society, and I was a course rep last year and a member of 5 different societies here at the University of Surrey. With regards to my manifesto, what I want to do is try to unify the activity zone with the university to ensure that faculty and student mentors, and alongside the activity zone with the voice zone with course reps, can ensure that they know all about the benefits of societies and sports clubs and everything that they have to offer here at the university. I want to try and find new ways to integrate societies and sports clubs into the community, working with the community zone to increase volunteering opportunities and to find a way to have different venues and to do events and whatnot. And finally, to do sort of a society and club yearbook as well, so we can sort of codify our memory in a nice, affordable document that you can keep for the years to come. Thank you so much, everyone. Hashtag filled with jambition.
Hi everyone, my name is Aman Karia. I'm a second year eco-finance student. I am currently in the committee member of 2 big societies, more known for the Indian Society, where I've run like quite a few big events, one coming up this Thursday at Bar 13, if anyone wants to come. And so that's kind of why I'm running for Activity Zone. So I kind of just want to be exposed to more society help. The 3 main things I'm going for is promotion, involvement, and sustain. So sustain is just to keep the societies up and running because some of them are getting dormant. Involvement is trying to increase communication between members and the committee. And participation is just to get more and more people aware of like the 190 societies and clubs we have at Surrey. So yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessie Green and I'm a second year student midwife. I'm on 2 committees. I am president of Disney Society and vice president of Feminist Society. I am really passionate about societies here at Surrey. I think they're a huge part of my university life and I want to promote it to as many other students as possible to get them involved and to make the most of their experience here too. I want more support for committees to help achieve their potentials and also more support between societies through collaboration events to help them grow as well. Thank you.
So as you guys can see, we have some very passionate candidates over here, and without further ado, we'll jump into some manifesto questions. Dec, I'll start with you. Your manifesto states that more must be done to promote casual sporting and students who don't necessarily play sports at box level. You say that students' needs aren't being catered for. Could you give us an example of what needs aren't being catered for, and how do you plan on tackling this?
Well, personally, I think there's loads of great societies and clubs here, and they do a lot to promote, but I feel like sometimes at freshers' fairs, straight away, you're quite intimidated to join sports because you think, oh, I have to be an athlete. Like, you know, I do athletics and cross country. You know, you think, ask loads of skinny blokes running around in a circle. I definitely can't do that. And it's not the case, you know. Like, we do a free session on Monday. We go from walkers up to intense runners, you know. We do legs, bombs and tums on a Wednesday. You know, it's very welcoming, but students don't know that. You know, and same as societies and clubs, other clubs as well, you know, like hockey, you do like very casual sports, but no one knows about it. So how I'd actually change that is at Freshers' Fair, have a beginner's rep. So someone that came in first year, brand spanking new, never did it before and having a great time. So I think that would really promote people and want people to do it. And also I would consider using a social Surrey, social network, so you see the casual sport and societies that go on. So students start to engage a lot more. Because 80% of students, once they're engaged, will go to a give it a go session. They enjoyed it, but it's getting those students to go first of all.
Okay, thank you. Moving over to Jessie. You say that you want some societies to have regular check-ins with the activity zone in order to mark their progress and how they're doing. We currently have 152 societies and 44 sports clubs, as I'm sure you're aware. And it's compulsory for every society to meet up with the activities coordinator once a semester. So our current activities coordinator clears her schedule for this for these meetings because they're quite time-consuming. So my question to you is, how are you going to have time to do all these meetings? How often are you going to host them? And who are you going to decide which societies get these meetings?
So my idea was to have these progress check-ins where committee members check in with the zone just to see how they're doing and what they've been organising and how they can continue to achieve their goals. I thought about having asking the committees themselves how regularly they would like these meetings. For example, at the beginning of the year we had the development plan meetings where we talked about our plans for the entire year, but I just think they need more regular sessions to make sure that these are being achieved and that they're keeping on track. I think that once this time schedule is arranged, it would work very similar to the development plan meetings. I'm aware it does take a lot of time out of someone's schedule because there are so many committees. However, I think that I'm sort of saying it is a totally optional thing. Obviously, if a society is having an issue, they can come and have a meeting with the zone at any point with a certain event or something they're struggling with. But I just think that by having these more regular check-ins that everyone gets involved in, more societies are more likely to attend, which is going to help them keep on track more. For example, some societies may feel nervous about asking for a meeting, a one-to-one meeting, but if just it was a regular thing, they might be more willing to go and help them with any issues, and then therefore they can achieve their potentials and the goals that they've set for themselves.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We will now go on to Aman. In your manifesto, you set out the goal of making Refreshers Fair just as popular as Freshers Fair, so that students can get more involved. How do you plan on doing this, considering that Refreshers Fair cannot take place in Patsfield in a marquee, it takes place in Rubix, and by the time Refreshers Fair rolls around, a lot of societies are oversubscribed and may not want to engage with new members?
So firstly, I think that while Surrey Decides can show that everyone can campaign really well, everyone can promote themselves really well, so why can't we do the same for Refreshers Fair? So obviously Freshers Fair is promoted, well obviously everyone knows that it's something that you should attend at the start of the year, and then Refreshers Fair is many people aren't as aware of it, so obviously that's for people that missed out on the opportunity earlier in the year. And then answering to your question for members, there may be oversubscribed members, I feel like they could probably balance it out, because by the end of second semester, there's probably a lot of people that aren't regularly attending events. So you can do a check, do some research, or the union can do some research on how active these societies are and how many people are actually attending their events, and or just attending the society meetings or whatever, and make sure that people actually join for next time.
Thank you very much. And finally, Jamal, you have the very interesting idea of creating an affordable hardback yearbook to collate all of the student experiences relating to the activity zone. How are you going to ensure that this is affordable? Because I presume it would be a big boy. And do you think... Sorry. And...
Theatre student getting ahead of himself there.
Sorry. And do you think that students would be interested in a book that might not necessarily relate to them in its entirety?
With regards to the first point about affordability, I was part of this theatre company, and they had this little hardcover book with all the things that we did, and they charged 50 quid. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. So looking at that, what I want to do is I want to ensure that I have a lot of meetings with the activity zone, meetings with other societies and little forums where we can discuss what we think is a suitably affordable yearbook. I've researched a lot into external companies and how much it could cost. This would depend on the quality that we want the yearbook to be, obviously how big we want it to be. It could range from something as cheap as £5 to something that can go up to 20 or 25. But I think using little forums, meetings, and even society standings to sort of find what price bracket works, I think would be really useful. With regards to your other question, A yearbook would be really useful for people who are involved in societies, so they can take away the memories that they have had with, you know, the clubs that have been involved in, the societies, and something to show their family, show their employers, so on and so forth. But I feel you can use a cheaper paperback version of this year group for Freshers' Fair and Refreshers' Fair. So new students that come to the University of Surrey that want to sort of see something and see what societies do in a small little book can have that put in their tote bags when they walk through onto the big tent in their first year. I think that'd be a really useful opportunity to bring in the numbers and have more people come to societies and clubs here at Surrey.
Thank you very much. Right, so we will now be taking a question from the floor, if anyone has one. Yeah, over there, at the back.
Hi. So it's evidently quite a strong field already for the activity zone. And in your manifestos and in your policies, you have some similarities in sort of engaging societies, engaging people in societies, collaboration, support for societies. So I want to ask you, what you think makes you better, what quality you think you have that you could bring to the activity zone that maybe some of the other candidates couldn't do as well. So what makes you better?
Oh, sorry, yeah. It's my go. We will start on my far left and make our way towards the right for this one. Please keep your answers brief this time.
Okay. So I have experience of working on two society committees, so I know how the systems run and how I've organised events and organised Freshers' Fair and everything like that. I also think from being a student midwife, I have loads of skills from that, such as communication skills. I know how to talk to people and quickly build trusting, positive relationships with people, as well as being a good listener. I think it's a really important skill to have, especially in something like the activity zone, to hear what people want and to produce what they're asking for. And I know as well about, I know for other placement students and healthcare students, how important it is to have societies as a kind of way of relieving stress and things from our course. And so I think that I would be a good representative for them as well, for how to manage both societies and their course and using it as a way to alleviate stress.
Thank you.
All right, so coming from that, I'm also a committee member on two societies as well. For the Indian Society, I think it's one of the biggest societies in Surrey, so I've helped run quite a few events for that society. So I feel like collaborating with, and we've also collaborated with other societies. So I feel like I'm quite social, I'm quite engaging, and I feel like I can convince other people to join forces, and we can do collaborated events because it's for the benefit of everyone. So, and also I think that I'm also just really easy to talk to. So anyone can come up to me if they want. Thanks.
As president of Theatre Society, we do a lot of events. We have to manage different things, and a lot of these involve collaborations with different societies. We've done collaborations with MT, MadSoc, Gospel Choir. We've also done a bit with, I think, Jazz Soc as well. And I think this experience of working with different societies is really useful because you could sort of, because what we like to do in Theatre Society is sort of run subcommittees and figure out ways in which we could coordinate events in the benefit of all societies that are sitting in the room as well. And I think my experience as a course rep as well would be particularly useful, and my connections to obviously different faculties as well would be particularly useful in ensuring collaboration not only within the union and with societies, but with university departments as well.
Yeah, two things. I think variety and experience are one of the two things for me personally. So obviously I understand on a lot of Team Surrey, but I have got endorsements from Jazz Band and Labour Soc as well. Big societies, they do a lot for us, which is great. Also, I understand signatories. I've been one this year. Like, there's a few things I want to change with the Team Surrey booklet, for example. Like, you know, I was first year signatory with Michael Slavin as well, and he became treasurer, and he does English Lit, which is terrifying. Like, he needs support. Cheers, Mike. So yeah, I understand things. And also, when it comes to society as well, my stars, I want to change stars slightly so it endorses more. So basically, at the moment, stars, you just get rewarded for collaboration with society. I'll change that a little bit. And I want to support like Aman on Communities Zone, where he's running for it. He said about how he wants more collaboration between clubs and charitable societies. I want to add that to the STARS programme. So I think that there's a variety there between supporting societies and helping Team Surrey. And I think I can bring that with my experience and knowing different departments of activity at this university. Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap up this debate, I would like to ask you, very briefly, one word, 2 words, who you would like your VP activity to be next year if you get selected. So we will make our way the other way around this time.
Okay. I'd have Lizzie for VP activity. I've worked really well with her before, and I'd also like Wes to be president. Yeah.
I too would like the wonderful Lizzie to be our VP activity. I love her policies, especially on first aid training with committees and supporting societies and free swimming. But more importantly, she is one of the nicest people I've ever met. She's just a fantastic person.
I'd like Ridish for VP activity because I think he's done a great job as society's chair, and also he's just a good guy and I have a good relationship with him, so that's all.
Jessie.
I would also say Ridish because I believe that we have very similar points and I'd love to work with him on those so we can both achieve our similar goals.
Thank you. So this concludes part 1 of the Activity Zone debate. Stick around and we'll be back for part 2.
Well, as I said before that, we have quite a number of activity zone candidates, so we're splitting this into 2 sections, and that was part 1. So just a reminder that these candidates are going for 3 positions, because the top 2 executive committee positions are taken by the Surrey Society's chair and the Team Surrey chair. There is no relevance to the order in which I said that. They both have the same standing on the exec committee. So, thank you for joining us once again in the front room. I should point out that none of us here can vote, apart from Alexa. If you want to hear the views of students, then you can listen to Stag Radio. They are doing the same sort of thing over these nights, last night, tonight and tomorrow night, and they've got a load of students talking about the debate. So you have a choice of listening to us or Stag Radio. You've got a panoply of variety of options. So I have with me here tonight Mark Garfoot, the head of student sport, the man who makes it all happen, Dan Jacobs, who is going to be running the flagship new initiative on campus, Hive, Ali Douglas, former VP activity, Alexa Hughes, current VP activity. We're with you just for a short amount of time. I should really shut my gob, Neil, because we're just changing over upstairs in Rubix. I will ask you, Alexa, because you're obviously up close and personal, if you know what I mean, with the activity zone. How are they coming across so far?
Yeah, I think I'm seeing a lot of passion. I think that what zone members need to be really careful about is being very pragmatic with how much they can offer students in a part-time role. I think there's loads that you can do as a zone member, and actually you have a lot of responsibility this year, especially bringing in the zone ratifications. You'll be responsible for new societies getting zone ratified and also making decisions about them getting funding. So I think that they've all come across very well so far, and I think that any of them I would trust with those responsibilities.
Ali, a lot of the things that were being discussed tonight, broadly speaking, there was a mix between things that usually come up, stars, freshers fair, refreshers. Yeah. There was some new ideas come out. Somebody was talking about a yearbook and things like that.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea about a yearbook. I think it's it would be a nice kind of. I presume it was talking about having a yearbook for Team Surrey and for societies as well, and your involvement for that year and what you achieved. I think that could be a really nice memento to remember, obviously, what you did for that year, especially if you're on the committee as well and help run that society or that club. So that was a really nice, new, refreshing idea. So well played to the guy that came up with that. It was good.
Dan, I should say that you were Vice President of Sports and Recreation back in 1893.
Indeed.
Right, exactly. How have you noticed that things have changed since you were doing sport? Well, obviously you still do sport, just nobody cares about it anymore.
No, it doesn't have its own title anymore. No, I'm actually a huge fan of the new structure. I think it's allowed for far more collaboration between the zones. I think instead of having your head shoved just in sport and all I can think about is sport, I think with activity it allows you to zoom out a bit, broaden your horizons. I think you can dabble with other zones a little bit more as well, and I think it allows for collaborations and campaigns to cross over a little bit better between them. So a big fan of the new structure.
Mark, what kind of interaction do you have week to week with the zone members? Practically speaking.
Varies really, but most of my interaction is via Alexa or the Team Surrey chair, really. But as to carry on from what Dan said, the beauty of the new structure is you can get information out of that, feed up and down both ways. So if there's one thing you always struggle with is getting student opinions, finding out what people actually want to do. It's great that people at the SSP, for example, have ideas, but isn't necessarily what students want to do, so you need some form of feedback mechanism. So by expanding that, you've got a much better way into finding out what the student body wants to do. They can take that away, bring it back into the activity zone meetings, and then Alexa and Alex can feed that back up.
I said at the start we have over 8,000 memberships. That doesn't mean you say we have over 8,000 members. I can't remember the exact figure. It's about 5,500 unique members. It's pushing on for about 9,000 memberships. It's a huge part of student activity. I mean, it's almost sort of, it's a massive part of what the university does. SSP takes a huge amount of funding. It's a big part of what the union does. You know, almost do we have to rethink the way this is done? Or not?
Probably not this year.
No.
Probably won't be doing it this year.
I
think it's always a discussion to be had. I think that it's working. We work really hard with the guys at Team Surrey to make sure that is a really good relationship that we have, and I think that's something that needs to be nurtured, and it's really important that the Vice Presidents and Team Surrey Chair next year do go forward with that and keeping that relationship really strong. There's always going to be challenges, but I think that a lot of unions have gone to activity rather than sport and societies, and obviously I go to Bucks and meet kind of some of the VP sports and some of the VP activities, and broadly we do the same thing. There's a huge amount behind clubs at Team Surrey, so I think they are catered for, and societies potentially could have more if we had a VP societies, but I think that's something that could come from union full-time staff.
So, what I do want to ask is, what sort of things do you think that the candidates for VP activity should be thinking about? What are the hot topics? Initiations, participation, facilities?
Definitely get more people involved. I think the world it's really easy to get pigeonholed, especially around Team Surrey, that was all wrapped up in sports and it's sports clubs. You were just talking about numbers there. There's 9,000 members of different things. But if you take the university, there's 16,000 students, about 10,000 here at any one time. How many of them are actually engaging in some form of activity, not necessarily sport or the gym, but doing something that ticks the mental health well-being box? Like, are we looking after everybody? Are you part of a society or a club that has that? That's your family away from your family. That's the thing that often gets people through university. So
sorry to cut across. If somebody's watching this tonight,
very rude, Alan.
And
I'll let you
I can be ruder. If somebody's watching this tonight and doesn't fancy putting themselves forward for a high intense sport, sort of running, throwing, catching, what options have they got for getting involved in activity here at Surrey?
There's a walking club, goes every week. There's a myriad of societies, but everyone thinks, and this is the problem when you get caught up with
as a whole, which now got 5,000 users on, staff and students, which
yoga in Rubix.
There's a whole ream of activities, and I think Dec touched on it really well, that you know, you've got some people that love bucks and they love that, and competitive societies as well, they love that. But some people want to go for a walk at lunchtime, and that's great for their physical health, their mental health, takes a break from exams, they're getting their steps up. I think there is an activity for everybody. I think it's our job collectively to highlight all the what's on offer.
A lot of the people in both the zones and the VPs, a lot of it's about communication, telling people more about what's on offer, because actually the offering, it might not be 100% right. Again, times are ever changing, the world's quite fast paced these days, so we need that feedback from students, but they're entirely right. How do we get the message across to people? Because it's, I can't remember who said it now, but somebody said how busy Freshers' Fair is, and it is pretty hectic, and there's so much going on in the first week, especially if you're a fresher. You're turning up, you're moving into halls, you're trying to find the new you and all that sort of jazz going on, and all of a sudden it's November, December, and you've missed a whole host of activities. Actually, can we put something on new every month? How do we get new information out to people so they know all of those things that are going on? So maybe we need a better form of activity calendar. So actually, they're all kind of touching on the right point, but that's where that crossover, like two-way feedback process to the activity zone is. How do we communicate to students?
Well, right now we're going to communicate with Rubix, because the candidates are swapped over, and it's now time to hear from the second tranche of hopefuls going for the 3 positions on the activity zone. So back to Rubix.
Chairing the debate for the activity zone, please welcome Irene Garcia.
Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of the activity zone debate. I promise no more big boy jokes on my behalf anymore. So let's just jump right into it and welcome the other candidates for the activity zone. Hello candidates, welcome. So just like before, I'm going to ask you to briefly introduce yourselves and why you're running for this position. So Rahat, we'll start with you on the far end.
Hi everyone, I'm Rahat Laskani. This is my 2nd year at the University of Surrey, and I study Law and International Relations as the current Vice President of the Arabic Society and a member of the Student Act for Refugees. And joining many events and socials, I realized that although the activity zone has done a great job this year, there is still many areas that still need to be improved, and that collaborations among societies and clubs are great for fundraising. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm a first year. I believe that participating in activities and clubs are very important in your university experience, and I want to improve the marketing strategies and how the university tells the students about all the activities going on around campus and outside of campus area. Yeah, and that's, yeah.
Hi, I'm Annabelle Fuller, a first year economics student. Initially, I didn't know what Surrey Decides was and just started running because someone asked me to. Thought I'd be good for it. But since learning, I know that there's certain things that I haven't experienced yet in my first year and would like to encourage for all new students that come.
Hi guys, I'm Callum, a digital media arts student on placement this year. I'm a part of snow sports and American football. So I want to focus on getting more people involved in sport, no matter their ability or anything like that. Highlighting the work that clubs and societies do for charity, and getting social and intramural sports out there for more people to join in.
Hi, my name's Caitlin. I'm a 2nd year biochemistry student. I'm a member of Pole Fitness and I'm a committee member for Dodgeball. So during my time as a committee member for Dodgeball, I've helped organise charity tournaments involving several other societies. And this year my main goal has been increasing female participation by running frequent female-only sessions, which has been really successful. I'm running for this position because societies has been an integral part of my university experience, and I want to help other students have similar experiences. That be it having a group of like-minded people that you can talk to, or having a way of blowing off steam after lectures.
Thank you very much. So we will now jump into some manifesto questions. Kate, if we could start with you. In your inclusivity and involvement point in your manifesto, you talk about wanting to increase gender diversity in societies, which is really important. Aside from tackling gender diversity, how would you go about increasing participation in sports in other groups such as the LGBT community or disabled people who engage with sports and societies less than women, whose attendance has actually increased?
Okay. So like I've said, having frequent sessions for females to join in during my time at Dodgeball has really helped. I understand that we have the This Girl Can programme, and I did run a Dodgeball session for that, and it was a great experience doing that. But I think having those one-time only sessions, if a student doesn't know about it or if they were unable to attend, then they don't really have any other opportunity where they feel like it's less intimidating for them to join and try that society. So having them more frequently would help. Maybe contacting the society and encouraging or finding a way or a space that they could do that. Also, during my time as a committee member, I've reached out to AutiSoc, and we're having a Dodgeball session open to AutiSoc members in a quieter sort of environment. So we're going to have less actual Dodgeball members, maybe a few core members who understand that members of the AutiSoc society would find it more intimidating having the normal 50-odd dodgeballers throwing balls at them, yelling and screaming, knowing everyone. So I think using the, I've forgotten the name, the committee, what's it called? The
Liberation Committee?
Liberation Committee, I'm sorry. Communicating with them and societies directly, such as AutiSoc, and finding out how we can help them directly, because obviously I don't know what would help. So by communicating with the AutiSoc, I'm using that as an example a lot, I'm sorry, understanding their needs and then applying that.
Thank you very much. Hannah, going on to you now, that's okay. You mentioned that you aim to support more people in the process of creating a club or society and helping them voice their ideas to the union. Considering that creating a society is a relatively simple and smooth process, I would like to know what support you plan on giving these students that isn't there for them already.
Like the kind of support we'd be giving them if I get elected is that we'd be open to more ideas, like, for example, playing cards club. Some people would think of it as something that isn't serious enough so they can make a club or society out of it. But like other people who aren't into sports and stuff, they can join a club like that and socialize with more people. Like being open to different ideas that aren't already in the union and that aren't already done by the university would help them. And like anyone who has an idea to make a club or make a sport or make any kind of society, would be giving them support for that.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Rahad. You state that you want to provide societies with a cheat sheet to help them enhance performance. And I was wondering what this cheat sheet would include that is different to the committee resource booklet that already exists, and how would it differ? What would you put in it?
Yeah.
I've spoken to the VP of the activity zone, and I'm aware that the handbook exists, but I still think that it needs improvement. I know that it only has like things like social media, but there are things that we need to include that some societies require. It should be brief. Things like about suppliers, how to reach out for certain people, how to retain all your members, how to do membership cards and stuff, and also like my other point about this was to provide training sessions. I know we have that at the beginning of the year, but if we have one individually for each society at the beginning of the year, then we can see the skill gaps that they need individually to each society and club. So yeah.
Annabelle. You have your Active Weekends point, which talks about increasing activity during the weekend to make Surrey a more lively place so that placement students can engage more. Considering that social Sundays already exist at the Surrey Sports Park, I want to know how you would elaborate on this, what your plan for societies would be, and if you have any plan for commuting students who would not necessarily be here during the weekends.
Yeah, so with social Sundays, there's only 13 sports that are actually represented. And although some people might play those sports, if you wanted to do anything else, there's nothing really on. Also, with societies generally, I'd want to encourage regular sessions so that whether people, if they don't go out to Rubix on a Friday night, then they actually are awake on a Saturday and say that there's nothing going on in Guildford. So to have more regular sessions of normal societies, but also with the play sports, it's not very well advertised, I'd say. So you hear about it at the beginning of the year, but throughout the year I haven't heard about it once. I never get emails or see it on Facebook. And I think it just needs to get advertised more to everyone, rather than just the people that regularly go to those sessions. With commuting students, I'm saying it as additional to the regular weekly sessions. So if you commute in, you can go during the week quite easily. But if you want more on a weekend, then having more sessions on top of the rest of them is just adding to everyone's experiences.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Callum, you have a very interesting point about expanding intramural sport to cover accommodation, courts, and playing leagues. This, I don't know if you're aware, but this has been tried before. It was tried around 5 years ago. Yep. And students played in respective halls against each other. Clearly it wasn't very successful because we don't have it anymore. So my question to you is, how would you plan on increasing this engagement and maintaining it should it happen again?
So I think I would start by getting the student life mentors to talk about this when the students are first introduced into halls. I know that from my experience, it was actually something that people in my hall tried to start, but we weren't able to. I think if the student life mentors were then able to say that from the very start of the year, hey, you can come along on a Sunday when you're not doing anything, play a quick game of five-a-side football, just your flat against whoever else's flat, it would be great to get more people involved in sport, and then from there, gain them into different sports in the unis as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we will now be taking a question from the floor, if anyone has a question. Yes, Anna, thank you.
There's about 4,000 students at Surrey who aren't involved with any sports club or society. How would you either engage them if they wanted to get involved or find other ways for the activity zone to be inclusive for them?
Yes, we will start with Caitlin and move our way down to Rahad.
So I think drawing on my experience through dodgeball, I've been pushing for female members to join, and we've had additional Sunday sessions at University Hall. We've had about 50-50 normal female dodgeball members and then new freshers, and I've just been reaching out using my own personal social media on the freshers pages. I've begged course mates, and I've also gone to other so I'm a member of Pole Fitness. I've asked other members. I think it's just reaching out to people individually, so maybe involving the mentors who go or maybe... so I had a member of staff from the Wellness Centre talk to me about dodgeball and how, whether or not it'd be a good society to recommend. So just communicating one-on-one, like I feel like bombarding people going, join dodgeball, join this society, it's great. I feel like it's not very effective. Reaching out to people personally and being like, hi, I feel like this would be a good fit, or have you tried this? Like communicating and sharing and encouraging our current members to maybe reach out to their own friends, just getting on a personal level.
So inclusivity and getting people involved in sports was the main point in my manifesto. And so what I want to introduce is videos of freshers who maybe aren't the most sporty types. I know that I'm not, and I'm still part of 2 sports societies, clubs. I want to get videos as freshers talking about their experience and how maybe they didn't really want to join a society, but they came along and enjoyed it when they were there. I also want to have more social sessions so people can come along, try a sport that they wouldn't have tried before. I know that I wouldn't have tried American football, but went along and I loved it. And I also want to have societies or clubs publicise their taster sessions that they're going to do, maybe even not on Freshers Week, but halfway through the year when they're not getting people to join, but to have that there so people can join if they want to.
Thank you very much.
So I think throughout the year it can be quite daunting to go into a club full of people that have known each other for 6 months, whatever it is. So I think there needs to be sessions especially for people that want to try something new and want to go along, not necessarily just after Freshers Fair or refreshers throughout the year. And also have, like, when you meet new members there, you can then go along to the club and meet everyone together with a new friend, rather than walking into a room of 50 people you've never met, doing an activity you've never done before. It's very daunting and you want to go with someone. So personally, I wouldn't go to things if I didn't go with one of my flatmates or one of my friends already. So I think if you have someone before you go into the room that you can go in with, that you met, it's really helpful, and then you want to go and join new societies.
So this is my first year, but I was actually here last year as I did foundation. And last year, like in school, I was usually a very active person. I used to always go to societies. I used to always join clubs. But when I came to the university, I wanted to, but I didn't really know anything about any of the activities that have been going on in campus, including Freshers Fair. Like, I didn't know what Freshers Fair was. So to include more of the 4,000 people in the university who don't actually are in clubs, I'd make the marketing strategies for the societies better by offering help to the societies in the beginning of every month, so they can actually, so they can tell more people about everything that's been happening in their club. Another way is reaching out to more students and more people, like what Callum said, offering more social sessions, creating a better Freshers Fair that actually have more clubs and more societies in them, as this year's there weren't actually a lot of clubs that new freshers can actually join, and have more play sport sessions.
One of my manifesto points was to broaden participation. It's important to explain to students that there's a correlation between their participation in extracurricular activities and university performance. And societies and clubs can arrange their social timings and trainings to make sure that everyone is involved. For example, people with busy schedules, they need to be asked, like, when are they free? They can, like, every society and club can do a poll on, like, Facebook and see when their members are free and when they can arrange them. We have hijabis in our university. We have girls who are uncomfortable to play sports around men. We have beginners. We have disabled people. So clubs and societies can do their socials specifically to target these people. We can do more daytime events, simple things like color run, icebreaker events, anything like that. And we can do rewarding mini games throughout the year. More people would like to join if there's a reward at the end. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And before we wrap up this debate, the last question as usual, very briefly, very, very briefly because we're pressed for time, who would you like your VP activity to be if you get selected?
Easy answer, Lizzie.
Yeah, same for me, Lizzie.
Lizzie. Reddish.
All the candidates are great, but I'll go for Lizzie.
Okay, this concludes the Activity Zone debate. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, now we've heard all the candidates who are standing for the Activity Zone position. So, as with all the zone elections, you rank them in order of preference, and in this case, the top 3 will get themselves onto the Activity Zone. So there was quite a lot of discussion there, all about activity and students doing things. Ali, you did make a point when we were listening that although they were talking about activity, they did restrict it purely to sports and societies.
Exactly. I think it's a very easy trap to fall into that you think of sports clubs, societies. There's so many out there, 40 sports clubs, 152 societies.
44 sports clubs.
Oh,
Nearly.
44.
It was the same as your year.
I should have got that. I should have got that. Well, anyway, I think, well, one of the things that Team Surrey have done really well over the past few years is try and broaden their offering. So they have now Surrey Moves, which is a fantastic initiative that gets staff and students alike involved with activity on a daily basis. And then also alongside that you have Play Sport, which is a good intermediary where you can go along with your friends, pay a little bit per session. I think it's £3, maybe £4. £3 still £3. There you go. And you can just get involved with your mates and take part in like a social league or try a new sport. And I think there's a lot wider offering than clubs and societies, and I think it'd be good to see more of the candidates try and find some points on the wider side of activity.
We did talk about this before. I mean, there's such a huge number of students involved in this, and there's such a huge amount of societies and things you can get involved in. I mean, literally any society you can start up, a sandwich society, an umbrella society, a cocktail society. I mean,
roll society.
Literally, you can do
Society. Gnome society.
Anything. And all you got to get past is Ted saying, "Why should you be a society?" You know, is it true, or would you think that those students who are not actually members of sports and societies, let's not stress about them. Let them get on and do their thing. They might just be quite happy getting on and living their life without having to need to be a member of a sports club or society.
I think it's quite a niche thing on the whole. I agree with what one of the candidates said of actually going up, meeting a club or society, chatting to them, joining them, potentially paying a membership fee to either Team Surrey or that society. It's quite a big deal. For some people, that's quite a commitment. Where Ali, I think you're right, the Play Sport programme growing from like 8 or whatever it was back in the day to 5 to now 35 or something sessions, where it's including your membership, if you've got Team Surrey membership, or it's only a few quid. I think the offering has really grown, and for things like that, you don't have to have that membership. But the fact that we've got nearly 80,000 students committed, I think it's amazing. And then we know we've got another sort of 3,000-4,000 students on Surrey Moves, and we're not quite sure how many of those just yet are unique to that. But I think we've got a great deal of campus doing things already. I think for me, and this is where sort of the hive will come in, it's finding those students that might be slipping through the cracks, that we either miss, that aren't involved in anything. And you're right, Alan, I think some will be totally fine with that, and they're like, actually, I'm here to study, I'm doing my thing and I'm happy. But I think there are a group of students that we do miss. And for me, it's how can we reach out and get them doing something, whether it is Surrey Moves, just going for a walk, playing some sport, joining society, doing some volunteering, be a course rep. There are so many things that encompasses activity, Ali, you're right. Yeah.
What's astounding, actually, is when you cast your mind back to when, well, I know obviously you can't, but if I remember when Unisport used to be where Ivy Arts is, and when Surrey Sports Park first opened, it was this gargantuan facility that it would be hard to believe that you get to a point where people were thinking, you know, we need more space, we need more time. I mean, Ali, you compete at a really high level. How much was SSP and Surrey's sporting reputation part of your decision to come here?
Hugely. I think from a high performance perspective, the fact that the sports park and the university as a whole offered a scholarship and financial support as well as services provided to help you step on that next level in your sport was a huge incentive to come here. And I think that does still attract top level sportsmen, and it's a great initiative. But what you mentioned about Surrey Sports Park being a bit imposing, I think that's something that certainly I felt was a bit of a challenge to overcome, and I think it's probably still an issue, is that Surrey Sports Park is the other side of the A3. It is away from campus. And so something that's been really good to see started happening last year, and again even more this year, is bringing activity back onto campus so that it is accessible, it is there for everybody to get involved with.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great bit of momentum we've got building there, and I think we should keep pushing on to get activity all over the university, not just at the sports park.
The next debate is talking about societies, the Student Society's chair, Alexa, such a huge range of societies, huge range of activities. Some of course, you know, they keep themselves to themselves, they do amazing things, we see them once a year for the AGMs, some of them a little bit more visible. What are some of the highlights that you've been exposed to as VP activity?
So most recently, I went and celebrated Chinese New Year with the Chinese Society. They had a really impressive kind of royal variety-esque performances. We had some Chinese rap, and the Vice-Chancellor went. We had some Chinese ambassadors there. It was really quite a spectacle. But at the same time, this week I've seen, we've been doing these male-only sessions for those clubs and societies that in their development plan want to engage more males, such as cheer, pole and yoga. And I've seen, I think, Broga, yeah.
Broga,
so
Broga,
Pole
yeah.
Fitness sent me a wonderful picture of 22 guys that had come along to get involved, and following on from that, all three of the clubs and societies that took part said that they wanted to do more events. So that's, you know, something quite small, 22 guys going and doing some pole fitness, to a massive, you know, show from Chinese society. They have the same impact in terms of engaging new students, and I think that yeah, in terms of going to see things, I'm really excited to go see UGCY finals. That's the Gospel Choir of the Year, which our wonderful Gospel Choir have made this year for the first time in, I think, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited to go and watch that.
Now is going to be about 7 or 8 years old, something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's all part of the rich tapestry of student life. I mean, Mark, do you think that SSP is, you know, this point that Ali was making about being across the A3, is this something you feel when you're working over there? Do you feel you need to be part of the campus more?
Yeah, I think
a massive bridge plan.
It was just going to fly people across with hovering Ubers. No, I think it's definitely changed. As Manor Park has grown, obviously we saw the new residences open this year, there'll be more next year. That side of the campus is obviously going to have a lot more people, so I think as it becomes home to more people, definitely at the start, people were very much kind of everything happened over this side. There wasn't many people living, or as many people living in Manor Park, but I think it's definitely grown. But Ali's point about it being really imposing, I think people overlook that. If you're a sports person, and you're looking to play sport, you're going to walk in there and go, wow, this is going to be my home for 3 or 4 years, this is perfect, I absolutely love this place. What people often forget is that is absolutely the opposite for some people. That is not the environment they want to be in. They don't want to go to the gym, it's super imposing, they're not interested in going there at all.
Yeah.
How do you engage with those types of people? So it is bringing stuff back to campus. Is it facilitating societies to be able to deliver more things? Is it finding the mythical empty spaces on campus to do more things with? Is it actually activity they want? Is it physical stuff? Is it actually just people catching up and hanging out? Because actually the ones that want to do sport and activity may gravitate towards SSP. So again, back to saying what most of the candidates in their manifestos are all talking about chatting with people and finding out, and I think that's where the zone can do that job and say, actually, this is what people want. But it has to be a really joined up approach. Ali was saying before about communicating with people. I think we're doing a better job now, and then you've got something like the Hive, which will gradually spread. If you can get the same messages across all the digital screens and get clubs and societies to deliver stuff in the right way, all of this chat around people don't know, hopefully we'll have enough stuff across campus that people do know, and then you feed in the right types of activities that people want to do and make it a bit more joined up.
Dan, we've mentioned Hive a couple of times. For those of those watching, what is Hive? What's it going to be? We mentioned it last night, but just in case they didn't hear.
So the Hive, my Surrey Hive, where the Philip Marchant building currently is at the moment on
Nobody will
campus.
know where that is.
So where accommodation and employability career centre, right in the sort of heart of campus where the amphitheatre, opposite student services, that building at the moment's got all the kind of like corrugated iron stuff around it, all the rest of it. That building is being ripped out, completely ripped out, with a brand new interior going in. And the vision of the Hive is it's a one-stop shop for all student inquiries.
Right.
So beforehand, you might have to go around different parts of campus to receive support. You might go in one building, you think you've got the right one, and then they go, actually, out the door, head and speak to somebody else. And actually, I think we're trying to make that a lot better and really improve on that. And it's our job as staff that when a student walks into the Hive, when they come into the Hive, we know that they've got an issue, we know they've got a question, we know that they need supporting, and it's our job to make sure that the right staff behind the scenes come and meet those students in the Hive.
Right.
So trying to simplify the process as a space to be supported, but equally we know that breakout space, somewhere to come and eat your lunch, somewhere to have to study in a little booth, to do some group work in a meeting room. We're trying to make it quite a versatile space, but to stop ping-ponging people around campus.
And when does this open?
The student launch will be Monday the 25th of March, 12:30 till 3 o'clock, where there'll be pancakes involved.
Hugely exciting.
Big day, celebrate
Biscuits
Pancake
and
Day.
biscuits.
Biscuits can get involved. It's only on Tuesdays though, Biscuit Tuesdays, but yes.
Just a reminder, what I said last time around, you can hear lots of students talking about the debates on Stag Radio. Also, Stag Radio have interviewed each one of the candidates for the trustee positions, that's the Vice President, President and Union Chair. Meet the candidates, and those interviews are available on their Twitter feed, and actually we've retweeted them out as the Union. So have a listen to some of the work that the Stag Radio team have done for Surrey Decides. So now we are going to a new debate, and this is the debate for Surrey Society's Chair. So back to Rubix.
Chairing the debate for Surrey Society's Chair, please welcome Solomon Milides.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the first exec chair of the day. So, even though it's starting to warm up and the temperature's increasing, there's still a bit of a chill in the air. How about we turn up the heat and give the candidates a good roasting? Please welcome the candidates back onto the stage. Okay, so 7 days ago, the I think Board of Trustees, if I'm not mistaken, rebranded this particular position as Surrey Society's Chair from the previous name of Surrey's Society Exec Chair. So take this as the welcome party and the first guests for the position of Surrey Society's Chair. As with other debates, we're going to start off with a brief introduction and, you know, your name and why you decided to run. So I think we'll start with Luke and we'll work this way.
So hi everyone, my name's Luke. I'm a fourth year civil engineering student, and so basically my experience so far at university has really been made by being part of sports clubs and societies. It's really made the experience extra special, being part of surf and the rowing team. And this year I've been on the activity zone, and I originally decided to run from a sports perspective, but this year I've had my eyes open to a whole world of societies that I previously didn't know existed. Particularly a highlight this year has been going to the International One World Gala Week, iGala, and that was amazing. I really got to appreciate what a unique university we have with such a diversity and such talent. I've also really enjoyed being part of the union this year. I've had a great sense of achievement, and this year, particularly launching the Surrey Society's Instagram, which has been really, you know, I feel like I've made a difference. We're now at almost 550 followers, so give it a follow. And yeah, I just want to make this university experience as great for everyone, and so remember, look no further, vote Luke.
Hi,
I'm Alfie, and I'm a second-year nutrition and food science student. I'm currently the president of Indonesian Society, and I'm running for this role because I am passionate about societies, as being involved in a few of them has really enriched my university experience. I think there's always a room for improvement, and that's what I like to bring to the role. My goal is to improve student experience through societies and give societies the support they need to thrive, and my 3 manifesto points are a way to get there. Encouraging societies to do more collaborations by having a collab month, committee workshop to ensure new committees work well together, and a president's refreshers training, and society spotlight to increase society presence and the student awareness about societies.
Okay, great.
Hi everyone. Thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Rahul. I'm a second-year physics student. At the moment, I'm the marketing manager / treasurer of Stag Radio. I'm involved in ZenSoc, People and Planet Society, and as of about 3 hours ago, I'm now the treasurer of Surrey Matchmaking Society as well, which is one more society, which is great. Yeah, so I'm running for this role because I believe I want to make it easier for societies to collaborate with each other. I think that with Surrey Societies being developed last year, there's like an amazing groundwork for society collaboration to be built upon there. I also want to make members of societies more aware of the opportunities available to them through transferable skills and employability, and also through my time as in Stag Radio, I've learned a lot about marketing and outreach and how to sort of make the student body aware of all the societies on campus. So I want to make it easier for societies to do that as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Nadia. What you see on the plate is my full name, which means hope in Bulgarian. I'm currently the president of the Bulgarian Society, and I'm really passionate about giving back to the community. That actually made my experience in university so amazing up until now. And I think that my points in the manifesto are the way to go.
Great, thank you, candidates. I'm going to move on to some manifesto questions. Just to let you know, keep the answers short and brief as you can. I'm well known for having a timer going and introducing an end if it's going on too long. Okay, great. We're going to start with Rahul. On your manifesto, you talk about wanting to speak to each society individually. Mm-hmm. There's 152 societies at this university. You'll be a final year physics student. Yeah. So I did some maths because I'm also an engineer, and who doesn't love maths? Pretty much everyone. So if there's a 30-week term, that works out to be about 5 hours worth of meeting a society each week. Your contact hours are 12 to 16 hours a week. Probably times that by 3 for coursework and for the reading around the topic you'll do. That doesn't leave you a lot of hours in the day. I mean, just by your degree, it's about 9 hours a day. So how are you going to manage this, and is this an achievable promise?
Yeah, I agree. It is a lot of hours, and it's a big commitment. I definitely think, I wouldn't be going for this role if I wasn't passionate enough to genuinely get involved and communicate with every society which is on campus. As unachievable as it may seem because of the hours, I genuinely do want to do that. That being said, I understand going to every single society is a bit ideological, but there are definitely societies on campus which can be sort of vaguely grouped together within their objectives and their aims, and also the sort of topics which they lean towards. So my point is, for employability, is to, everyone knows how important transferable skills are for employment. Leadership, organisation, communication, teamwork, all of these things. And I want to make it easier I want to make members of societies more aware of how to apply those skills in the societal activities which they undertake. So working upon Employable Me and the Employability Award at the moment, I want to almost zoom in on the efforts which have been made by these initiatives in order to promote employability and see how can you apply your societal activities in the working world. And yeah, I do think that it is achievable to work with as many societies as closely as possible to make these efforts more specific.
So just to clarify then, maybe not individually, but you'd be looking at working with groups of similar societies or societies that are more willing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay, so if we move on to, we'll move on to Alfie. You want to promote collaborations and focus on smaller societies,
yes,
which is a very nice point. I'm just wondering how exactly are you going to go about doing that? So can we have some more information?
Yeah, okay, so so far we've had events like Feel Good Feb, One World Week, and all those kind of platforms, but it's not really about collaboration. So I would like to create a collab month with different themes each week. So it could be an international theme or like hobbies and interests, and maybe postgraduate takeover, or for students that have very different timetabling like GSA, nursing students. So this would encourage them to collaborate and make more events, and I think students will be pleased because they would have more events to go to and it would be very fun.
Sure, okay, so with that, there are societies do collaborations at the moment. So take, for example, the Mediterranean night that happened, which was a really big sellout in Rubix for a non-Wednesday or Friday that was quite big. So how will you replicate that, or how are you going to develop that further?
It can be any kind of event. It can be a day event or a nighttime event. Currently, I am personally planning an event for my society to collab with other Asian societies as well. It's still in the process. So we're looking for an event that would be approachable to everyone, because most of our members are Muslims, which doesn't drink. So so we would like to give an opportunity for them to feel included. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, great, thank you. Nadia, on your manifesto, you talk about including women in activity, yeah?
Yes.
So doesn't that fall more under Team Surrey, the activity side?
On one side, yes, but also a lot of societies are still struggling in promoting diversity and equality, and a lot of societies are still being closed by stigmas. So I believe that trying to push that stigma away is the most important thing, especially in a university that has more than 15,000 students and is proud to call itself diverse. I believe that those stigmas should be put away, and we need to look for the future, not the past.
Okay, so if you're saying that, you've talked about women and doing activity, but according to the NUS and by LGBT groups, some of the societies that, some of the groups within society that do the least amount of exercise are trans people, and you haven't mentioned those, or there's disabled people that have real barriers to doing activity. So why focus on women and not on the other, because you've talked about diversity, but you've only mentioned women in your manifesto, so...
Yes, so the women are the starting point, but I will encourage societies to promote events and activities that are open to everyone and that can be organised in places which allow disabled people to participate, as well as members of the LGBTI community.
So how will you go about doing that?
I believe that, first of all, through improving the STARS booklet, because for the moment it includes only one or the other option, either the One World Week Gala or This Girl Can, or choosing any activity. While I think that if a university is promoting itself as a diverse community, it should definitely include this as a compulsory part of development of societies.
Great, thank you. Okay. So, Luke, on your manifesto, you talk about inclusion. You talk about inclusion as one of the things you want to talk about. What did the Liberation Committee say when you took it to them, and how will you go about funding what you want to do with the Liberation Committee?
Yeah, so you can say I haven't actually spoken to the, although I am actually on the Liberation Committee. I haven't spoken to the Liberation Committee since I've written that manifesto point. But my idea was with this would be that, so again, going back to my Instagram or any kind of social media output, it would be kind of looking at trying to create some kind of talking to Liberation reps and seeing if they could be willing to contribute to maybe some anecdotal like messages that would be going out to students. And these would be trying to encourage, so this would be trying to show that if there's, say, some students out there that may feel like they won't be fitting in with this society, or they just would feel a bit nervous to be joining because some form of barrier, these liberation reps would be basically saying, like, these would be focusing at groups that would be in this position and saying, look, like, these are my stories or my great experiences with societies. This is how a great experience I had by joining a society. I really want to encourage you to do the same. So I don't know if this necessarily requires funding. I think this is just a matter of getting a video camera, getting some reps, and maybe some other students who've had similar experiences, and getting them to talk about theirs, and hopefully reaching out to other students out there who have got these barriers that may be stopping them from joining societies.
Luke, you've got rid of my follow-up question, which was actually going to be about funding.
Oh.
So he's preempted me. Okay, cool. So we're going to move on to... We're going to move on to a question that I have, and I'm hoping that the countdown timer is ready. Yeah? Okay. So, on the pieces of paper in front of you, you're all going for an executive position, so it's important you understand what exec is. So I want to know which motions have been passed this year, this academic year that is, that are relevant to the activity zone. So that would be Team Surrey as well as societies, because it's important you have an understanding of both aspects. So countdown timer, please. So I think we'll start with you, Nadia. If you hold up your piece of paper so we can see, what are the motions that you think that have passed this year?
Strike points for society standings and Team Surrey standings.
Okay, great. And if we move to Raoul?
Yeah. So I got the Surrey socks, the name change, and also the strike system, which has been implemented.
Sure, okay.
Well, I put in Surrey Societies because it's a new branding, and the strike system started last year, not this year.
Okay, and Luke?
I've kind of butchered the way I wrote these, but so something about voting in private secret ballot motion, and EGM. So I think that's something like if someone resigns, you don't have to re-elect the whole, all the signatories. You only re-elect the one that resigned.
Cool. Okay. So actually, as a point of clarity, there are 4. So there are ensuring fair and democratic elections, which I put forward and was voted in. So that is the one about AGMs and EGMs having your voting card. Either you can ask for the voting card or secret ballot, and only one person as opposed to the majority. There's a formalising name change that went through. There's also one called Research, React, Represent and Report, which talks about keeping Wednesday afternoons free, among many other things. And there was the EGM secretary change as well. Okay, great. So I'm just going to ask very quickly, I just want very, very quick answers for this. I'm going to ask each one of you a different point, and you can tell me what you think about that. So if we start with you, Luke. So tell us about the EGM signatory change and what you think about that, and if you think that's a good point.
Yeah, so I think it's, personally, I think it's a quite common sense thing, because I think, you know, these people got originally elected for, when they went to this AGM, sorry, they got elected by the society's members for the reasons why they went in the first place. And I don't think it would be necessarily fair to, it's not like they've changed their beliefs or anything, or since this time, this person's chosen to step down for a separate issue, maybe because they're busy with work, for example. So, yeah, I think it's a common sense policy to not have to re-elect all the other signatories.
Okay, if you could, very quick answers. So if we go to you, Alfie. So how do you feel about keeping the Wednesday afternoon free? And what in your role will you do to try and help with that? It's a big question. I feel a bit mean.
Yeah, I support that Wednesday afternoons should be kept free, because it's a chance for students to get more involved in society activities as well as Team Surrey activities.
Cool, great. So if we move to you, Rahul, the formalising name change. Are you glad this is coming, or do you think it's an extra barrier?
The Surrey Societies?
Yeah, it's for societies and for sports teams, yeah.
Formalising it. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I don't think it acts as a barrier because I think really all it's doing is uniting the societies on campus and making them seem more of a coherent brand. Like the same thing with Team Surrey, same with Surrey Societies now. I think it can do no harm. It can only do beneficial work in making the student body and the societies on campus feel more united and encourage more collaboration between them.
Okay, great. And if we move on to you, Nadia, the final one would be then formalising name change. It'd be about the voting. How do you feel about the voting change that happened? Do you know how the voting was happened?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I believe that having a ballot, a secret ballot or a card means that members of committees can be voted without being embarrassed. And I believe that everyone has a right to vote and their vote to be kept private and not being imposed on other members of the society.
Great, thank you. At this point, I'd like to go to a question from the floor. So if I could see hands. No? No one want to ask anything? Great, well, I'll go on to the rest of my questions then.
Oh, and I had one.
I think...
Wait, no? Anybody
Hannah.
else? Oh, yeah, Ridish. Can someone pass the microphone to Ridish? Hi. If the microphone decides to work.
Yeah, I think...
Ooh. Ooh. And they've swapped it. Awesome work.
Okay, one of the things, so you guys, all of you spoke about the strike system, and it's not a policy, it's a rule that was made by the Society's exec chair last year and this year. And so I was wondering, through the strike system as well, I came across this thing called the membership engagement, and website engagement. So there are societies who do not have a website installed yet, like their web pages on the website and memberships, even if they are free. So how do you plan to have all societies make sure that they have their web pages and signups?
So just to clarify, can you just repeat the question? Because I didn't sure that I quite followed it.
Yeah, so
before I paraphrase.
I've made a thorough assessment of societies who have not done their web pages and signups. So how do you propose to make sure all societies get their web pages set up and signups ready for societies, even if they are, for members, even if they are free?
Okay, sure. So does everyone understand the question, or do you want me to paraphrase? Are we okay? Yeah, sure, okay. We will start with Nadia and work this way, if that's okay.
If I understand the question correctly, I believe that most societies are encouraged to put links towards the USSU website, where each person who wants to join the society can log in with their university details and actually click the membership, even if it's free. So I believe that every society that actually wants to participate in the union's activities is already in the making of such page on their website.
Great. Rahul?
Yeah, okay. So obviously the sign-ups and the website, I think it was, are criteria for the STARS award. So I think one of the problems with the strike system this year, through going to like activity zone meetings, I found that some of the members who have been contacted and have been like striked by the strike system were quite shocked by the fact they've been brought into an activity zone meeting to then face the VP Activity SOC exec chair. And I think the reason for that may have been that it took 3 strikes for them to be contacted properly through all means necessary. I think that with the strike system, it should be slightly reformed and just tweaked a little bit so that as soon as one strike comes up for a society, they should be notified by all means necessary, and that they should be, and the signatories for those societies should come in, and they shouldn't be grilled on what have they been doing or what haven't they doing, but more like how can we help you fulfill the needs of your society and almost support them into fulfilling the rest of the STARS criteria instead of asking them why they haven't fulfilled the STARS criteria already.
Great.
I think in terms of the webpage, in the first committee training when you just got elected as a part of society, I think there was a workshop about the website and about branding as well. So I think it's just more of like encouraging and reminding the societies to put their webpage up and have like, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Like have a deadline on which they should put the webpage up, and by the sign-up sheet they should put the link on the webpage as well, so students would come to the webpage and see sign up there.
Great, Luke.
So yeah, I'd kind of echo what everyone's already said already in a way, but I think as Rahul said, yeah, I think you need 20 sign-ups for STARS, so I think I'd try and emphasise to the committee members to really be encouraging their society members to be signing up so they can reach those 20 members and get those STARS, and really emphasising that a web page can be beneficial to you for what you can have on it. It's not just like a tick box, it's actually going to be something useful that you could be using in certain ways, maybe to buy things or advertise things. And then in other things, like, for example, with the societies, I've lost my train of thought as well now. Yeah, I think just generally getting your points across to the society committees that this can be beneficial to you. And yeah, I think strike systems can work because, you know, there are lots of societies maybe who might be not doing these things out of pure, well, laziness or something, and they might be checking their emails. But yeah, I think there definitely was an example which came up in one of the meetings where it was maybe a case of breakdown in communication that could be looked at better in the future.
Sure. Okay. Ooh, my time is going off. Stop. It's stop. Okay. So that leads on to a nice question to sort of look at the end. What's one thing you think's been done well by the current society exec chair, not Society's chair, which is the new name? What do you think one thing that's done well and one thing that could be improved? We'll go Rahul, Nadia, and then we'll go Alfie, Luke.
Yeah, so I think Rubix has done an amazing job this year as Society's exec chair. I think that definitely the Surrey Society's platform and the way that all of these, as I said earlier, all these societies have been united under this single umbrella, similarly to Team Surrey, has like such a huge potential to just move forward in the societies on campus and unify them and really make them feel like this one cohesive unit of societies which can like do great things together. And I think that's just like such a big triumph. And I mean, Luke has done amazing with the Instagram as well. Like it really has been a triumph this year. I think that, yeah, as I said before, I think that with the strike system, I've talked to quite a few societies which they think the strike system is necessary, but they feel that it may have not been used as tentatively as it should have been. So yeah, as I said, I think that as soon as a strike is brought up for any sort of reason, the signatories should be alerted by all means necessary. And if that means that they can't contact their email, they may have to use a personal email that they've been given, and then they should be taken in and they should be supported in moving forward and any disputes that may be going on, any things that need to be mediated, rather than sort of grilled on why they're not doing certain things.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rahul. Nadia?
Yeah, I believe that trying to effectively implement society strikes is a really nice idea, which was done amazing this year. What I think should have been done better is just reasserting the role, making it more visible and ensuring that all societies are being aided in their struggles, especially if they're applying for STARS criteria.
So Rubix has done an amazing job this year. I feel like the branding of Surrey Societies has been a huge step in uniting all the societies, and I wish to continue that job and make it better somehow.
So again, yeah, I'd say the society branding is brilliant. The logo, I think, I don't want to give you too much credit here, but I think you made it yourself. So yeah, making the society logo pretty good, yeah, just bring that all together. And then not so good. I'd say potentially I remember there being talk about this thing we were going to do with the zone was Chairs Challenge. I thought it was a brilliant idea. Nothing has happened with it yet, but I think I'd like to maybe take that forward.
Sure, okay. We're coming towards the end of the debate, so I'm going to ask one very quick last question, and for this I do want very, very brief answers. I just asked that, never mind. Mind blank. The question is, on the booklets that we have in this booklet, it has very, very, very important dates in it. I want you to write down on your piece of paper when Alexa, our current VP Activities, birthday is. You have 10 seconds. Can you lift up your answers and show the audience? whilst I get it on myself. When is Alexa's birthday? Alexa, this is the 4th of October. Did anyone go? 10th of October, we have a close one. Nigel, what do you have up?
Sorry, Alexa. I'll try and learn it.
No worries. I think that's been a fantastic debate. The candidates have all done really well. We've seen what they want. I think please give them a massive round of applause as they exit the stage. They've been great.
Well, there we are. That's Surrey Society's chair, so it's formerly known as Society's exec chair. It's not such a great leap to Surrey Society's chair, but there we are. Alexa, in a nutshell, what does the Society's executive chair do, and what will the Surrey Society's chair do?
So it is the same role. Do you want me to explain what they do? So they chair the monthly standings. They have to chair 6 standings, of which a representative from all of the societies will attend. They'll discuss issues of that month. So we might have some external speakers coming in, or for example, at the next society's standing, the Hive is coming to do a presentation about student. Sorry, we had to say it again, about student...
Everybody take a drink, it's Hive.
Be a great drinking.
About student services, so that societies are in the loop about that. We also do the full ratifications for new societies there, and talk generally about the issues that societies are facing in that month. They're also obviously in the activity zone, so the same thing that I said about the activity zone, you know, doing zone ratifications and approving zone funding requests, they will be involved in and do have a vote on.
They're also a member of the executive committee.
Yeah.
They get that place at the top. There was a lot of talk in that debate about societies, how active they are, and the definition of a dormant society. And this is a thorny issue that's come back many, many times, because of course the point is made that you need 20 signatures to start a society. But is there a minimum in which you can say, well, you're not really a society anymore? I'm going to sit firmly on the fence in this one as you all expose your opinion on it.
I think it's a really tough one.
That's why I've asked you.
Obviously, each society is different, and each society would therefore have a different amount of kind of core members, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think when a society isn't fulfilling its core values that it sets out when it gets ratified, then you've got to really bring into question whether it's really acting as a society anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many societies out there, 152.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Second time lucky. And there's so much on offer out there. But one of the dangers that I think we fall into is actually some people propose societies that could just be a group of mates meeting up and doing something they enjoy. And so running a society is not a small thing to take lightly.
It's quite a commitment.
It's quite a commitment.
A society is for life, not just for ratification.
Not just for Christmas.
No.
And so at the same time, if you have a meaningful society that you're really keen about and does garner membership, you can gain so much from it personally as well, in terms of all the experience you get and the people you meet. But I do think that there's got to be a fine line between what is a society and what isn't, and what's a group of mates instead.
Gentlemen, as I turn awkwardly to you, clearly we are entering challenging times financially, and you know everything is going to come under the spotlight. Everything we're talking about tonight is not teaching, it's not research, it's not learning, it's not core university business. I mean, as people that work for the University of Surrey, what is the justification for the expenditure that goes from the university in running these societies? I mean, at what point does it become a nice to have?
Aren't students our core business? If you don't have any students, you don't have a university. So if you're adding to that experience, surely they're all good reasons to do that. Yeah, all the other, I mean, everybody else you've just reeled off that list would all have an argument. But ultimately, students come for all of those things, but they also come for the experience as well. So that it is a bigger part of that. And if you haven't got a university that people want to be at, you can have the best academics in the world, but they're going to want to teach. And therefore nothing functions.
I think to add to that, it comes to what your definition on a student experience is. And I think you ask an academic, you ask someone in professional services, you ask a sports part of the union, I think at the moment you'll get a very different answer. We've got a student experience strategy as well, which again highlights a lot about teaching. There is a amount in there about the vocational side of your degree. If you go down the boring route of the stats, you know, there was a survey last year of over 5,000 students across universities in the UK that said if you are doing something active, whether that's basically a club, a society, going to the gym, if you're part of a club or society, your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your social activity levels, your employability prospects go up a great amount. And if you do some sort of physical activity on top of a club society as well, it almost doubles that. And the stats do speak for themselves. I think if you ask anybody, do you understand the benefits of doing something extracurricular on top of your degree for all of those reasons? I don't think anyone will disagree with you. So I completely agree. We do come for a degree, but I don't think you can get that degree to the best of its ability without having that broader, more holistic university experience. And for me, it's how we can increase the prevalence of that and increase the importance of it's not just come, do your core hours, leave.
What societies were you involved in?
I played rugby.
You played rugby?
Yep.
Anything with a racket. Anything with a racket.
Anything non-sporting?
No.
Ah,
actually.
Interesting.
No. Big advocate of Surrey moves from a non-sport perspective. But I was a big social sport advocate, so never any good at a sport. But the ability to go to a social Sunday, rock up, meet some mates, who then became my housemates in my second year and fourth year, and I'm actually having a reunion with some tennis friends next weekend, so they've continued to be some friends for life. I think it's that group of people that really make a uni experience.
You were big sporting advocates. Any societies you were keen on when you were?
I was president of the Debating Society and treasurer of the Civil Engineering Society.
Ali, you couldn't have a second spare in your day.
I didn't, I'm afraid. I was a member of it. Well, I guess technically by doing my degree, I was a member of FISOC.
No, you do still have to sign up.
I was getting emails, so I think I'll sign up at some point. I think in my first year I did go to a few of their events, but I wouldn't say I had the time to get properly involved with society, which is a side of university life that I never quite made the most of it.
The societies I was in don't exist anymore. Well, they do. The forerunner of Stag Radio and the forerunner of Pressure was what I was involved in, and I suppose Stagecoach in a way.
But going back to your question, Alan, Pressure's a really good example of where they've only got 4 members and yet they run this society incredibly effectively. So I think membership is not necessarily indicator of how effectively a society can run.
I think that's why coming back to the core values of why they were ratified and whether they're fulfilling that is a really good measure of whether they're still a society, so to speak. So yeah.
It's the experience you're giving your members, isn't it? It's all quality over quantity. You could have one club or society that's got 130 members and we don't currently know how engaged on a true level of engagement those guys are, and Pressure's got 4, and again we still don't quite know. So I think you're right, it's the value of the membership rather than purely the quantity of the people involved.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk there about admin, memberships, websites, that sort of thing. We don't want to overload these people with with the mundane tasks, do we? And they were adding in stars criteria and stuff like that. Where do you draw the line? When does it become fun, and when's the need to have?
Well, this is what I loved about Luke's manifesto. He had a little part about fun. I don't know if it was one of his key points. Are you going to get it up now?
No.
Oh,
I'm just checking how long we've got. Don't worry.
Okay, so he had a little part about fun, and I've also been Team Surrey chair and so ran the sports standings. And I wanted to make those fun, so every single standing we had an icebreaker, something stupid at the start. When you walked in, we had my standing playlist with standing related songs such as I'm Still Standing.
Elton John,
and it's just things to make it more fun. I completely agree with you, and that is kind of what has been missing from a lot of people's manifestos. They're not actually talking about how to make it more fun to engage with the union from a kind of committee point of view.
You were Team Surrey chair. That is what we're going to be talking about next. There's going to be a huge interface with what you do, Mark. What makes a great Team Surrey chair from your perspective, not necessarily from a student perspective. Remember, they're going to have their say, but what makes a great Team Surrey?
Link between the clubs, because again, back to you can't have a university without students, and you can't have an SSP without students. So it is. Yeah, we give a lot of guidance and we steer the ship to a certain extent, but ultimately the students have to turn up, they have to go training, they have to fill the sessions up, they turn up to play sport, so therefore you need that link between the students, and that's where Team Surrey Chair, VP, comes in. They take those meetings, and it's also about engaging. So Alex very quietly this year has gone and chatted to clubs all off his own back, and he's reported back now and again, he brings you feedback, but he's done all that himself.
Yeah.
But that's hugely valuable because you actually get a good chat.
He's been a huge advocate for student for sport representation this year.
Yeah, but he's not waited until there's a sports stand, and he's just been doing that quietly throughout the year. There's been no official survey, or we all have to fill this in now. But he's been really good at, if you ask him questions, he's always got a good opinion, or he goes away and finds it out, and he does his due diligence around that. So I think engaging with clubs, but having a bit of an idea of where you can help, or thinking, do you know what, I'm not really sure, so I'm going to go and find out. I think that's
what would you highlight as some of the big success stories for clubs in the last few years? Somebody mentioned the other day that dodgeball seems to have become the new in thing.
I think clubs, pretty much everyone has some form of activator now. I think the performance side of things was very much the thing to do when SSP first opened, and there was a certain amount of getting up the bucks tables and stuff that needed doing, but started probably 5-6 years ago now, play sport, and then taken on by Dan and then picked up by Fran. You've got now, we went from 5 to 35 sessions, so there is somebody in every club that is there to be that person that welcomes complete newbies. They're just playing that Butlins redcoat role. They may not even be, they don't need a coaching qualification in that sport. It's just about putting on a fun session where everyone comes along, plays a bit of sport, has a great time, and they want to come back because of that person. And I think that's where clubs have done really well. Yeah, there's some still very high performing clubs, and as Ali said, we've got some great sports scholars, and those bits are all good, but actually it's the bit along the bottom, getting more people engaged. And then I think the next step, and hopefully these guys will mention it tonight, is where do we go next? How do we get that other chunk that everyone keeps talking about? How are we going to get those people engaged? Do students know what they want to do? Lots of the manifestos have said, oh yeah, we want more of this and we want more IMS. Is that what people want? Great, if they do, let's put it on. But is that actually what students want to do, and are they going to turn up? Because there has been things that we've done that haven't gone well. That always happens. You've got to put stuff on to find out if it works. But again, are we finding out what currently students want and then picking that up?
Right, well, we've heard from the candidates for the Surrey Society's chair. Now we're going to look at the candidates for the remaining executive committee position in the activity zone, which is that of Team Surrey chair. So back over to Rubix for our penultimate debate of the evening for Team Surrey chair.
Chairing the debate for Team Surrey chair, please welcome Faten Rahman.
Hello everyone, I hope you're enjoying your evening so far. This is the Team Surrey chair debate, and let's welcome the contestants. Right, so this one's going to be a little bit different. We are going to start with a quick fire round. So contestants have a couple of seconds, a few seconds to answer my question. There will be a timer, and we'll see if they get it right or wrong. Right, is everyone ready? Yeah? Okay. So, you have 5 seconds to answer this. How many sports clubs currently exist under Team Surrey? Right, if we reveal it one by one, James?
44.
Maya?
Put 45.
And Natalie?
44.
Next question. How many franchises does the Surrey Sports Park have? Right, we're going to go Malin first.
I've got 3.
Right. Maya?
I keep crossing my question, but I think I'm going to go with 3.
And James?
I know that's wrong, but I also went for 3.
Right, so there are actually 2. The next question, unsurprisingly, will be name them. Right, shall we go Maya first?
I went with Surrey Storm.
Okay,
and,
that's...
And
yeah.
Scorchers.
Malin?
I've got Surrey Storm and Surrey Scorchers.
And James?
I've also got Surrey Storm and Surrey Scorchers.
Okay. The next question is, how many types of sports park memberships do we currently have? James, we'll start with you.
4.
Correct. Maya?
So we have 3 Surrey Sports Park memberships, and we have a Team Surrey membership, which is the £40 one. So I put 3 in 1, but 4, yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't do the math.
And Malin?
I've put down 5, so the 4 that has been named, and I wasn't sure if the Just Play membership that is available for free as well would count as well.
That is... There are 4, including the play sport, so the pay and play one. Right, you have 20 seconds for this next one, so it's a big one. Right, so how many training sessions were carried out this year by the union so far? And list as many as you can. Is everyone done, or do you need a bit more time?
I'm done.
Done?
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 Yeah.
Just one second.
Okay.
Right, for this one, we will reveal, well, for each person, you will reveal the number and list them simultaneously. So, starting with you, James.
So I believe there was 5, which were included employable me. Help your mates it's to do with looking after our society members and making sure that they're getting the best that we can. The Team Surrey conference, and I know there are 2 others which I can't name off the top of my head. All of which had multiple days they went across and weren't just one session.
Okay. Maya.
So I put 4. So I put we had the president's training, the Team Surrey training, and then there was, and before a sports standing we had the Samaritan training, and I put captain's training. So I just put 4.
Okay. And Malin.
So I've got, we had the President's Training, then there was for all signatories, Team Surrey Conference Part 1 and 2, and what James mentioned, the Look After Your Mate training.
Okay. I can confirm that there were 9 training sessions carried out by the union, and I will list them. So, the AMM, the development meetings that occur twice a year, the Team Surrey conference that most of you got, finance training, looking after your mate, which is the mental health one, website training, president's training, captain's training, and bystander intervention. That is the end of the quickfire round. I will move on to the manifestos. Maya, I will start with your one. Right, so you mentioned player layer on your manifesto and the cost or the price of the products. You also mentioned working closely with the regional account manager. Have you made any contact with the regional account manager at all, or?
Yeah, I have. So, do I introduce myself, or is that too late now?
Your mic?
Well, hi guys, I'm Maya. I'm a final year Law and International Relations student, and I'll just skip the introduction. So the regional account manager that we have right now for Surrey is Sam Dean, and I've spoken to him about what we can do to reduce prices. Because obviously, everyone that joins a club in Team Surrey wants to kind of show off and represent that club by wearing the player their kit. Now for us, I'm part of women's football, and although we wanted to buy the jumpers, they actually were about 43 quid without personalization. And I think that was a bit much for people, so we just decided to go with hoodies from a different company, and that totaled to 23. So when I spoke with Sam, I told him what are the kind of ways for us to actually reduce these prices so everyone can wear the kit proudly. And what he's told me is that the prices on the website, the Player Layer website, it's actually a deal between the university and Player Layer, and those prices are quite fixed. So unless you buy the kit during Freshers Week or just before the Christmas sales, you get like a 10% discount. So what I could do in that sense is, first of all, inform all clubs, guys, there's a 10% discount, buy your stuff now. But I kind of want to work on that on a larger scale. And what me and Sam talked about is having bundles for teams. And he explained to me that actually men's football are a club that have done that this year. So the way you do bundles is you can have different bands of bundles. You can have band A, band B, band C. Now, band A would obviously be like the smallest bundle, which could include a t-shirt, shorts, socks, and that would be, each item would be reduced by 10%. And obviously a large bundle, which includes t-shirt, socks, trackies, jumpers, and the jackets, and that would be a bigger price. You can do this in 2 ways. You can have this as an unpersonalized bundle, so people in the team can purchase a single bundle and then share it amongst themselves, split the prices, or you can have it as personalized. Now, these bundles, the reason they would be cheaper is because each item would be reduced by a certain amount, rather than if you bought, items in bulk and just sold them to your team, you wouldn't get such a great discount. So what me and Sam are working on is to kind of make club committees, signatories, actually meet up with him on a regular basis. And anyone who's a signatory right now has probably received a lot of emails from Sam. He was saying, can you please meet with me at this time in Starbucks so we can discuss your order for next year? Because Player Layer does take a long time to actually, receive the orders. So what I want to do is I want to work with teams to create bundles and hopefully get the order as soon as possible. If I was to be elected, I would want people to do this from when we start doing the Team Surrey training and the President's training. Thank you.
Thank you. Just quickly quickly, before I move on that point, are you aware of the Black Friday or Christmas discounts that PlayLA provided? And PlayLA are currently, at the moment, offering a 50% discount on their new eco leggings, which these are regularly advertised through the union newsletter and through emails to clubs. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, I am aware, and obviously me and Sam spoke about that, and that was the thing I mentioned at first, where sometimes they do have discounts on certain times, so I would want to make everyone aware of that via, emails and that sort of type of communication. But also the reason the bundles I think is a better idea is because you can get it in the beginning of the year, depending on how many members you see coming, and then you can sell that to them. So everyone can start wearing the kit as soon as they join the club and not have to wait till January or till Black Friday to actually purchase it.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're moving on to James. So if you just introduce yourself and say why you're fit for the role, and I will ask you a question about your manifesto.
Yeah. Hi, I'm James. I'm a second-year economics and finance student. I'm also treasurer of the sailing club and social secretary and Team Surrey activator for badminton. I went through a hard time when I joined the university, and it wasn't until I discovered sports within Surrey that I found just how enjoyable university can be. And I want to do my best to make it even better for any new students coming in and existing students already here.
Okay, thank you. Your question. So you mentioned on your manifesto that committees are only given generalised training, which I assume you mean AMM, before they are left to fend for themselves. You actually attended the Team Surrey conference,
yeah.
And you stated a couple more for your previous answer. Do you not think that dedicating currently 36.5 hours with a budget of £5,000 is enough, and what more could you do?
I would say that whilst it is what we already have is brilliant, it's very front-loaded and very heavy at the start of the semester before most of the students either have properly become interacting with the clubs, and that aside from the developmental meetings we have, we don't get much in the way of how you're doing. Is there anything the university or Team Surrey can do to help the clubs? For instance, with badminton, we've had our social sessions cancelled 6 times so far this semester, when we usually expect 60 to 70 people to turn up. To be able to only give them 1 or 2 days notice that our sessions aren't happening anymore, and basically how as a society can we be expected to keep up our numbers and basically just keep everything running when we don't get too much support and communication from the sports park and Team Surrey to just keep things running.
Okay, thank you. And just to follow up, how do you plan on actually changing it?
That would be during my 3 hours, as I will be on placement whilst I take part in this role, would be any society who wants to meet with me and say, we're having financial issues, we're having issues with retention, what can I do as Team Surrey Chair to either go on a recruiting drive with you in the sports park or on campus? How can I help you set up fundraisers to help with your own funds, and basically just try and keep all the clubs we have alive and well?
Okay, and you plan on doing that whilst on placement, with this being a part-time voluntary role? Say all 44 sports clubs have issues. How do you plan on fitting that in?
The offer I have already for my placement is very flexible and within Guildford. The previous placement student, who was also at Surrey, got to be able to take multiple hours off every week to take part in football training as well as other committee roles he had, and I don't see why I will be any different in that respect.
Okay, thank you. Alan, your manifesto mentions the STARS criteria, and you state that it might not be easy or almost impossible for other clubs to achieve the current STARS criteria. Did you know that volunteering only relates to the size of the club? So it's either 400 hours collectively as a club, or 20 hours per member. So it is very achievable, some would say. Which specific criteria are you talking about when you mentioned that some criteria is impossible to achieve, and how would you change this?
So one of the criteria I meant, do I get to introduce myself as well?
Absolutely, yeah. Sorry, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Thanks. So I'm Marlin. I'm the current VP of the Archery Club and also an active member of the Surrey Equestrian and Polo Club. And if I'm not doing sports, I'm a second-year physics PhD student. Now, sport is one of my big passions, and I think many of you will agree that when I say sport is what keeps me going and getting through uni. And I've had an absolutely brilliant time being part of a student committee, but nevertheless, it was not always an easy ride, and there have been situations where I felt I need more support, there is something that needs to be changed, and I want to be the change for all you committees and all you people doing the sports, so we can be together there to win. And now answering the question that I was given. So I actually had the volunteering hour committee in mind, and yes, it is based on club size, so it's 400 hours collectively or 20 hours per club member. Now, say you're one of the big clubs and you have 100 members. To get collectively to 400 hours, it's 4 hours per member. Now, if you want to, in part of one of the smaller clubs, say you're part of pool and snooker or you're part of archery, having to do 20 hours compared to having to do only 4 hours is quite a big difference. And for small clubs, it can sometimes be really hard to rack together the people and the time to get these 20 hours per member done. Another criteria that I think is really difficult for some clubs is the widening participation. For Gold Stars, you need to run a series of widening participation events. Not only has there been little to no guideline on what these widening participation events could be, but also the examples that were given was cooperating with local schools to put up a course introducing high school students to the sports you're doing. Now, I'm doing archery, so to give you an idea about how our sessions are running, we go to the sports park, we have to set up all equipment every single time. We have to put up safety nets so the arrows can't pierce the walls, we have to put out the targets, we have to set up the bows. When we run training sessions in the beginning of the year for all beginner members who have never shot before, we need to have one coach for about 4 persons to shoot. Also, our club is not that big. So you can imagine if we were to run a 5 weeks introduction course for local high school students, how many people we would need, how much time and commitment we would need, and that all of us being full-time students, this is quite hard to do. And I've spoken to Fran about this. She said, oh, but widening participation can be so much more. Well, that was not communicated to us, so that is something that I think needs to change.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we'll take a question from the floor. Alexa.
I've written it down because it's a bit long. It's not too long. So, Bucks recently announced that they'd be setting up a reporting system to ban students responsible for organising initiation-related activities from their competitions. However, the most recent initiation-related death was from an agricultural society. As a member of the activity zone, what would you do to keep students safe from such activities? Do you understand?
Did you all get that? Yeah? Okay. We'll start on my right. James?
Thank you. It almost goes on to one of my manifesto points, which is making sure every society is welcoming to everybody and breaking down some of the stereotypes, which are sadly still there. Almost like, for instance, to use an example, to be in rugby, you need to be a bit of a lad, you need to be a heavy drinker. That isn't true. I know many people who do participate in rugby who don't drink heavily and still have a great time. And it's letting the students know and make it widely known that, yes, you can take part in a sports society, yes, you can be on a team. No, it does not mean that you have to take part in, frankly, sometimes quite dangerous activities to be truly welcome there. That has never been the case. I've been lucky enough that the sports clubs I've joined, we don't have anything like that, and I don't think there is any place for some kind of activity or initiation type activity like we saw with the Agricultural Society.
Okay, thank you. Next we'll go Maya.
So I think this would fall under 2 points of my manifesto, although I did keep my manifesto quite brief. There are definitely a lot more points I do want to work on. So I think this would fall under both participation and student welfare. And I think, first of all, I do want to highlight diversity within clubs, and therefore I don't feel like anyone should ever feel excluded, whether you're a drinker or a non-drinker. You should definitely feel like you could join a society. And maybe initiations kind of make people feel left out, because some people choose not to drink, whether it's dependent on your culture or your religious beliefs or your personal beliefs. As I'm aware, initiations are actually banned by the university. However, whether clubs choose to do it in a discreet way, that's something that isn't in our control. But what we could do as as Team Surrey Chair or as VP Activity or in the Activity Zone, when we're actually giving committees their trainings, we need to really highlight the importance of safety, because everyone loves going at citrus and getting completely hammered, but there are freshers that feel they're pressured to do such a thing. And therefore, we really need to speak to the people in charge of these clubs and talk to them about how these things may affect the freshers and how they can be safe, and to highlight things that they should and shouldn't do, and when taking these tasks go too far. And I think the only way we can do that is through education and through teaching the committees that, and hopefully hoping that they will carry that out and that everyone will stay safe, and hopefully no one will end up in the course.
Thank you, Maya. We're a little bit pressed for time, so if you could just keep it a little bit brief, please. Thank you.
I'll try my best. So I believe that every student, no matter they're disabled, a PhD student, part of the LGBT society, should ever feel they cannot join a sports club or society. So I think as Team Surrey, as the Activity Zone, as the Team Surrey Chair, we need to be really clear that we run a zero policy on dangerous initiations. So there can be some really nice initiation things like equestrian go for a meal at the beginning of the year where everyone can join, which is a really nice thing. It's just a get-together. Not saying anything against these things, but dangerous initiations, definitely we should take a stand that we will not tolerate them.
Thank you very much. Right, so doing one more round of manifesto questions, and if we can keep these answers less than a minute, please, that would be great. I will start with Malin. So, you mentioned promoting more flexible sporting options for those with challenging timetables. So, are you aware that Play Sport already exists? And if so, how would you guarantee that these sessions will be well attended?
So I am very well aware that Just Play actually exists. However, having spoken to students across campus, across GSA, some students still feel they cannot join because what they want, even the Play Sports activities are aimed at social players. They still provide kind of a training. When I've spoken to students, what they really want is just an hour they can turn up, kick a football around, throw a ball around, meet some new people that are not from their studies, and then go home. And they just don't feel like they can commit due to their studies to a set program where they go every week. So in terms of how do I plan on improving the Just Play session that we currently have, when I looked at the timetables, I found that a lot of them are on at the same time on 3 days, namely being Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So, first of all, I have spoken to Fran at Team Surrey about it. They're currently looking into reviewing the timetable, so I would like to spread out the session that we have over more evenings. So there's something on Monday, Wednesday as well as on the weekends, whereas there currently are some sessions, but not that many.
If you could just quickly wrap up, please.
Sure. I would also love to encourage these sessions to be run over summer as well, so that placement students and students staying here over summer can stay active, because that can be quite a lonely time. To ensure these are well attended, I think they need to be advertised a lot more than they currently are.
Thank you very much. Next manifesto point, please keep it brief, is for James. is, so you, on your manifesto, you talk about eliminating stereotypes, and that was one of, a point in your last answer.
Yeah.
So you mentioned sailing and how people think it's only for rich people. Right. So I've done some maths. So it is a £50 sailing membership,
Yeah.
a £40 Team Surrey membership,
Yeah.
and a £35 beginner course, which amounts to £125 to start sailing. Could you justify that at all?
Well, partially it's incorrect, to be honest.
Yeah? Correct me.
The beginner's course is there for you to get your full qualifications, which allow you to sail a small dinghy, which is a 1 or 2 person boat, or up to 4 people if you're pushing it, anywhere you want to in the UK. If you just want to be able to sail with the university, you only need the sailing membership and the Team Surrey membership. The sailing membership is high because, unlike other sports, we also have to factor in a bit of a higher insurance cost because it's sailing, it's very water-based, and we have to deal with powerboats and other hazards. And the cost is not that much higher compared to the badminton team membership, which I do not get a say in, as I'm only social secretary for that. So when it's at price parity with only £5 difference compared to badminton, I cannot really see why it is such a big deal.
Okay, fair enough. I stand corrected. Thank you very much. And so last question before we start wrapping up is for Maya. As you have acknowledged on your manifesto that training sessions lack student participation and attendance during exam season, why do you think this is, and how will you actually encourage students to attend sessions during that time?
So I think that during exams, obviously I'm president of the football club, so I do know the numbers for my club, not for any other club. But during that time, a lot of members, are quite stressed out and they decide not to come to training and they go to the library and study instead, which is fair enough. But quite a few members, even if it's 6 or 5, they do come to training. And that's the reason we don't cancel our training sessions. Now, people that maybe came to university at first and didn't attend active freshers didn't really get a free taster session. So what I want to do is, because it's scientifically proven that sports and physical activity, causes people to de-stress and is really good for your mental health. So what we can do during this exam period is speak to clubs and say, how about you run a few open sessions during exam period, because anyways, the participation has decreased. So you can fill the gaps using your social media and tell students, come to this free session. It's really good to get a break from exam studying. And that may encourage students to actually join the club later, or it may just help people to have a kickabout or play basketball or something like that. So during exams, they're not just going to the library and studying. They're getting out there and they're playing a sport. They're trying something new. So this new free taster session can help in so many different ways. And this has something to do with interzonal collaborations. I'd like to collaborate with the support zone for them maybe to advertise it to people, as well as clubs and societies. So I feel like it can benefit people in so many ways, whether it's people trying a new sport, people wanting to join the Team Surrey family, or people just wanting to de-stress, and you get to fill in the gaps for your small training sessions during that period.
Thank you very much. For my final question, it's the one you've all been looking forward to. You have 30 seconds to write down who you'd like to work with in regards to the position of VP activity and your reasons for it, or reason for it. Right, we'll start from my left and go downwards.
Okay. So I've put down I would like to work with George because I feel his manifesto of saying increasing online visibility and getting more students active in sports aligns very well with the points I address in my manifesto and the points I believe in, that we need to make student sports more visible to everyone.
Thank you very much. Maya?
I honestly couldn't think of 3 better suited candidates. I honestly think they all have a great opportunity and all their manifestos are really good. But I had to go with Lizzie simply because it's just simply because her points of her manifesto in terms of collaboration and campaigns like This Girl Can would really kind of help me, and I think we can work really well together if I were to be elected and if she were to be elected.
Thank you very much. And James?
I chose Lizzie. She's the person who I've worked with closest the most. She's extremely passionate about everything she does, and her policies align with mine on the other point, which sadly wasn't mentioned, which was using student sport to help improve student mental health, as it's just a huge part of anybody's day, really.
Thank you all for listening. This was the debate for your Team Surrey chair. I hope you're looking forward to the spicy one next. Thank you.
Well, that was the debate for Team Surrey chair, and what better way to discuss it than to have a group of white men to dissect what they've said. I do apologise in advance that Alex has joined us without his brown shoes. Alex, you're Team Surrey chair currently, and funnily enough, we were talking about you earlier and what a stellar job you've done on student representation. From your perspective, what is the key points of the role that you know now that you didn't know a year ago when you were sat on that stage?
I think practicality of the role, and also what the staff are doing and what generally is happening in the union and Team Surrey and where it's heading. You very much, as a student, see the next year, what's going to happen in that year, and then possibly something you can leave behind for the next year. But actually the staff and what's currently been going and what they see in the future is all being worked on, and you just have to sort of fit in as best you can with what you want to do and what the staff wants to do to basically improve student sport at Surrey.
I feel that discussion was very much about nuts and bolts stuff. There was an awful lot about. There was an awful lot of just. You're flying the flag yourself on Player Layer. Mark, can you explain what is the situation with Player Layer? What's the contract? How does this all work? Are they expensive? That was the accusation being hurled out there tonight.
Well, if you go back to the whole process where all the university clubs chose, we went through the whole process of everybody went for
Remind
suppliers.
us, for those of us who
so we did a full tender process 3 years ago. I think there were 15 entries from various companies. That got whittled down to 4 who came in. We were up in Harry's. No, in Rubix, not even as far as Harry's. Everyone was offered the chance to come in, feedback.
Yep.
Not every club, not even half the clubs took that up, unfortunately. Gave their feedback on types of kits, looked at price lists and all that sort of stuff, and then that feedback went forward. So it went from 4 to 2, those 2 came in and presented, and then a choice was made, which had the VP at the time in the room. And so it was pretty open process. It's one of those things that with kit companies, I mean, unfortunately, every kit company is very much similar. By far, these guys haven't been great. There's been a different problem every year for various reasons, but I don't disagree with anything the students say. One thing we don't do very well is give them enough lead time. People do ask for things a few weeks in advance, and they don't get there. But then equally, we live in a world now where I can order something on Amazon in 3 clicks and it's here tomorrow. Why does it take 12 weeks to get this number of kit? Why isn't it in the country in advance, and so on and so forth? So I think Mayor's entirely right. You know, there is definite work to do with Player Layer, to sit down with Sam. And
what's been your experience with the sports clubs on Player Layer and the kit?
Oh, they generally at this uni, it's different to other unis. Other unis will go in and they'll spend their £200 or getting all the kit possible, but here it seems to be a little more. Why should I be paying for something that is sort of representing the university? They might get 1 or 2 pieces. But I found that this is generally very comfy wear, and I wear a lot around campus. So I think the culture attitude of what students think about kit is slightly different here than it is at other unis.
The other thing that was discussed was the culture of initiations, and this comes around all the time. There have been some really tragic cases. The one that Alexa was referring to was a student in Newcastle. it is. I think it's fair to say that here at Surrey, it's a very different kind of culture than, say, I think UCL have just banned their rugby club in entirety. And I know that talking to some of the students that go on I Love Tour, you know, some of them that come back are absolutely, you know, can't believe the behaviour of some universities. Yeah. So broadly speaking, we've got some, you know, really I want to say, yeah, I do want to say well-behaved, you know, responsible sports clubs. But still, it keeps on coming round. You know, should initiations be banned? Initiations.
I think it has to depend on the definition of initiation.
Yeah, big time.
Always comes back.
It's not just are you making people drink. It's any behaviour that makes people feel not unwelcome but threatened, or puts them in a position where they don't want to be in. Intimidating behaviour, etc., etc. So not just a drinking culture. It is forcing people to do anything. So there has to be some form of welcome event. You have to do things in clubs. Ultimately, it's what everyone was talking about before about building communities.
Yep.
People want to be part of something, but you have to do that in a safe and respectful manner and make sure people are not being forced to do things against their will.
And the education tool, I think one of the candidates tonight mentioned that there is only so much that you can control in advance, and what goes on behind closed doors is incredibly hard to control, even for the wardens. But that education that you can do beforehand to what it will be doing to those students, the long-lasting effect that that evening that you might decide to put on can have on those students. And I think as long as there is absolutely no impact on their ability to compete, represent, support, be a part of that club, they are, I think, where everybody here would agree that a firm line would come in and say, if you are stopping that student participating in that sport because of an action you've put in, I think that, you know, that does call for a disciplinary.
There's a great piece of work, sorry to butt in, but there's a great bit of work being done up at Chester, and is an ongoing study, but it's also been turned into some training by Bucks, by a couple of the academics up there. And some of the training actually goes through the answers. So it's a lot of questionnaires to students who've been involved in initiations and stuff, and actually some of the answers about how they felt and the positions they were put in. If people actually read some of those, I think if our committees read that and really saw it from the other person's side, they really would think twice about these things they're going to put on for people, and whether they're just and whether that's the right attitude and all those sorts of things. So I think it is education.
I think it's fair to say from when I see the culture is that some of the big clubs that would traditionally be accused of having initiations have done a huge amount in the culture of their clubs. You know, I talk to the rugby committee quite regularly. I don't mean to highlight rugby as something that may be problematic, but it is certainly a club that's traditionally been associated with initiations. And perhaps actually what's happened is some of the newer clubs, some of the other ones that have come in under the wire, and that culture's created. There's a variety of opinions on campus about this, and there are some staff I talk to who are very much black or white and say, no, there should be absolutely no such thing as initiation. You know, you sign up for a club and that's it. You're a member of a club and end of it. You know, does it have a place in the 21st century?
But then surely at some point you've got to meet the people you're going to be playing sport with, or again from a society perspective as well. Again, it comes down to balance, isn't it? At the end of the day, I mean, you've got to have some form of welcome drinks, or welcome event. Sorry. Yeah. But at the same time, it is that point of peer pressure, isn't it? It's being put in a position where you don't feel comfortable doing what you're being asked to do, or having to do things you don't want to do. And I fully sympathise with people that have been in that position. So yeah, it's a tough line to tread. But I think again, educating the committees. I think was it your point, Mark, or maybe your point, Alan, about the showing the free text comments of some of these surveys. I think that would open some people's eyes to how people feel in those situations. And I think that could be a useful way to just ground people in reality in committee training. Just a little serious note to make sure people kind of check themselves before they go out and do something they regret.
And to say that when you get it right, it's amazing.
Exactly.
When you get those welcome events, and I remember mine, and again, badminton's not known for its rowdiness of behaviour as a whole, but I remember it really well. They did it well, they did it properly.
Your corks down, they can get quite...
There's some tennis jokes in there as well that I'm sure we can move on to as my two sports of choice. But yeah, when you get it right, they do become your most fond and your best memories, and it can be so easy to slip to the other side and get it wrong. And it's, I think, our education and training and showing some real life examples of where it has gone wrong. But when you get it right, it is incredible, and we shouldn't, I think, be scared of trying to. We promote more of those good memories as well.
It's easy to get caught up in a bit of a vicious circle of hearing stories of other people's mates at unis around the country, and it's almost one-upmanship. They did this at theirs, and then it's the next most extreme. You're right in the fact that actually our clubs are touched with generally relatively well behaved. Yeah. We don't hear too much. Maybe they're just good at keeping it quiet, which obviously let's hope they don't.
For on the court.
Yeah,
don't they, Alex?
But there's a horrible vicious circle now of
you can't do that to me.
Too soon. Of one-upmanship that goes around the country, and even in some universities that are a bit more well known. It's year on year, and it gets worse and worse and worse. So actually, maybe we can start to move back the other way in the fact of better behaviour, and then next year it's even better, and next year it's even better, and actually we can then create quite a good culture of responsibility.
Don't forget that this is an interactive evening. This is not just about us sitting talking off the top of our heads. This is your opportunity to feed back and ask your questions and make your thoughts known, make your voice heard, as the phrase goes. So please tweet. If you're commenting on Facebook or you're commenting on YouTube, I know that is possible, but it's not something that we're looking at or monitoring. But if you tweet and you hashtag Surrey Decides, then you will end up on the Twitter wall upstairs, and the little ticker that runs along the bottom of the screen. Well, you will until you get banned, and then you won't. So coming up next, we have the candidates for VP Activity. This obviously is the one and only full-time trustee position we've got tonight. What are we looking for here?
Well, VP Activity is a paid role.
Yes.
And again, with that, you want to see candidates who've spent a lot more time preparing their responses to questions and thought a lot more through their manifestos. Whoever gets elected is going to end up spending 40, 50, maybe plus hours a week dedicating their life to making activity better at the university. And so they've really got to have they haven't got to have an exact plan now, but they've got to know, they've got to have purpose of what they want to go and do. And what I really want to see is people selling their ideas and selling their version of how activity should be at Surrey to the people tonight. I think that's something that really can be understated sometimes. So you can lose your ideas in the crowd unless you really stand out. So yeah.
To save you some blushes, Alex, we've had a run of great VP activities. Alexa, they're obviously all been extremely active in what they do. They are hard acts to follow. And how do these candidates manage to separate themselves out, and rather than just saying, "Oh, I'm going to do more stars and do this"?
I think not only the manifestos, I think the person goes hand in hand with that. I think you've got to genuinely like the person and genuinely like who they are, what they're about. Can you talk to them? I think they'll be good in certain political situations, maybe when they have to deal with conflict or certain opinions. It's a genuine character of the person that you need to look for, really, rather than just I'm going to change this or change that, because those things can be hard to change down the road.
Well, we are now about to discover the character of those candidates that we're about to choose. Well, we are not going to choose. Alex, you've got to vote. The rest of us don't. We are now going to go back to Rubix, and we'll see you at the end after the debate of VP Activity. Whoop, whoop.
I understood loneliness before I knew what it was. I saw the pills on your table for your unrequited love. Oh, I would be nothing without you holding me up. Now I'm strong enough for both of us, both of us, both of us, both of us. I am a giant. Stand up on my shoulders, tell me what you see. 'Cause I am a giant. We'll be breaking boulders underneath our feet. I am a giant. Oh, I am a giant. Oh.
for VP Activity. Please welcome Hannah A.K.
How are we feeling? I've just logged myself out, 1 second. So we've seen some brilliant, brilliant debates and some brilliant candidates. How do we feel about it? How are we feeling about the upcoming? No, I don't want to log into iCloud, thanks. Okay, so if we could bring on the lovely candidates for VP Activity. Okay, brilliant. Shall we begin? Okay, so first we will start from my left. If you could just briefly introduce yourselves and just, run down why you're running for this position. Keep it very brief, please.
Hello, I'm George Green, a second-year CMT student, president of Stag TV, Chamber Choir, and a Manstock member, not president of Chamber Choir, and a completer of the Devizes to Westminster canoe race. Being president of Stag TV is a highly dedicated job. In my time being president, the society has grown massively. Content, quality, output, and member engagement has more than doubled. And through working closely with the union, I've learned a lot about how it works and where it could work better. I'm extremely passionate about the importance of getting involved in extracurricular activities. Not only are they proven to improve mental health, they reduce student dropout rates and enrich our lives as students and future employees. It is my goal to increase engagement between the activity zone and Surrey students, to provide better resources to signatories, to make their club or society more successful, and finally, to promote a healthy lifestyle that is accessible and free for all.
Okay, good evening everyone. My name is Rudish Mistry and I'm your current Society's Exec Chair and I'm running for the position of VP Activity. Only for one reason, because I'm passionate. There's nothing more to it. I'm not doing it for the money, I'm not doing it for a CV, I'm just doing it because I want to do it. And I want to do it for 3 important reasons which are based on what my personal experiences tell me. About engagement into extracurriculars, employability, which is important for every graduate student, and support, which every student would require, be it a sports club, society member, or any student who's not even engaged. And these are points that I want to put, that I have put in my manifesto elaborately to make it possible. And these are basically practical solutions that I'd like to achieve next year as VP Activity. Thank you.
So are you offering to do the role for free if you win?
Yeah.
Claim and quote. And now moving on.
I wouldn't.
Hi guys, my name's Lizzie. I'm a final year nursing student. I currently sit on your activity zone as well as being a committed dodgeballer. I sat as their women's captain last year and I'm their charity volunteering and tournament coordinator this year. I've also been a Freshers Angel and a Freshers Super Angel, which was a great experience. Through the activity zone this year, I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of sports and societies alike, supporting them through ratifications to any issues they may have, attending their EGMs. Reflecting on my manifesto is the core things that I'd like to see changing in the union, so supporting committees, things like This Girl Can, being the only girl running. I want to make sure that the This Girl Can campaign is continued with the introduction of This Girl Can ambassadors, so it'll be their role throughout the year to make sure that girls are involved every single day, 365 days a year, not just for a token week. Encouraging first aid committee training, obviously being a nurse, it's quite close to my heart to make sure everyone's safe. committee welfare officers, making sure I give sport back to students, so making sure that such as space at SSP is given back to you guys. Students are the priority at SSP. I want to bring in quite a bold one of free swimming for students, so breaking down that financial barrier that students can have to sport. Obviously it's a massive thing on mental well-being. And the token word of the website, I want to develop a sports and society communication platform which will enable another token word collaborations between societies to be more effective and engage them to communicate and enable Bucks organisation to be smoother and more effective.
Fantastic, thank you guys. So we do have obviously manifesto questions, but before that I've obviously looked at all of your manifestos and everybody else has, and I have a question for every single one of you on this panel. So VP activity has large responsibilities, as you can tell, and a substantial chunk was missing from each of your manifestos. We're going to give you a little guess, one guess each as to what did you miss out. You don't have to write it down. You don't have to write it down. And we will begin with George.
I would say sport.
Was it sport? Wow, stage crew, doing your job there. Any particular sport?
No, I wouldn't say any particular
No?
sport. You can red buzz me on that, but yeah. Sport. Thank you.
British, do you want to have a go?
I believe it's running sporting campaigns that are just going on currently, like Feel Good Feb, and there are a lot of things that are happening, working on that.
Is that right? Stage crew. Lizzie, do you want to have a go?
Well, from George, it's sport, and I do have sport stuff on my manifesto, so I'm not sure. More to do with Team Surrey in particular?
There we go. So, although you do briefly mention Bucks, there is no mention of Team Surrey. So does this mean you think it's absolutely fantastic and doesn't need any work? Or are you just like, Team Surrey, that's fantastic, all the money, everyone else? So what's the excuse?
Well, I had a chat to Mark Garford and I lost the name, sorry, Alex Stewart, who's the current sporting Team Surrey chair. Thank you. Yeah, I had a chat with them. In my mind, Team Surrey is run quite well as it is. Doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement, but the reason I didn't include it on my manifesto is I put only things that I thought that I wanted to change, that I thought I definitely could change, and I didn't want to come in with all of these ideas and then people go, yeah, that's not realistic, or actually, this is much better. I didn't want to come in not having that discussion, so I didn't feel comfortable putting it on my manifesto just yet.
Me, all right. Okay. So, one of the reasons I didn't put Team Surrey or any certain things related to it in my manifesto is I might have realized it quite late after I put my manifesto, and I spoke to VP activity, I spoke to Alexa, I spoke to Katie Barr, who is the finance person in the sports park, and also spoke to Jane Whitman, who is part of Surrey Moves, and I realized that there are so many things that could be done to bridge the connection, to bridge a gap between student support and the sports park. Because I believe students still believe that the sports park is a commercial thing, and the one thing Katie Bauer told me that it's the University of Surrey Sports Park. It's not just Surrey Sports Park, and she wanted to make it more available to students through forums, and this was something that I wanted to put, but I'd already put my manifesto in, and I do agree, and I will. I do want to work passionately about that, about Team Surrey and Sports Park as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
So, as you can see, I didn't directly name Team Surrey on my manifesto, but if you look more deeply into some of the points, it does incorporate it. So supporting committees, Team Surrey have committees too. This isn't just for societies. So committee first aid training, as George said, I've talked to Mark Garford and Alex Stewart, developing kind of first aid booklets for different societies to adapt to their needs. Obviously, rugby will need slightly more intense than craft society, for example. Committee welfare officers, that's something that can be brought into Team Surrey as well. They're still students, they still need the same amount of support. Free swimming for students, so I talked to Team Surrey Swimming and Water Polo Society Club, as well as, what's the other one? As well as Scuba Club, and they both said that the free swimming initiative would benefit them as clubs because it would get students engaged in swimming, and then they could then go forward onto participating in these clubs if that's something they find interesting. Also from the Brilliant Pulse survey, it says that 82% of students are satisfied with Team Surrey at the moment, which is a fab statistic. It means we are doing something right. However, only 29% of students have actually used Team Surrey. So I think our first push is, as the Free Swimming of Students initiative says, get students involved in Team Surrey first, and then we can develop it further from there.
Thank you. Fantastic answers from all the candidates. So now we'll move on to individual manifesto questions. We'll start with you, Lizzie. So, you actually have quite a few, which is fair enough. The one that I pulled up was This Girl Can ambassadors. So you wish to make ambassadors. Can you explain a bit more about that? What would they do?
So currently we have a This Girl Can week, and just before Christmas. This week is dedicated to getting women involved in sport, but this is all it is, This Girl Can week. A week is not enough to push females getting involved in sport. We have one day that is purely females only at the sports park, which that does give girls a chance to kind of be in a safe environment where they feel like they can be safe in sport. So these This Girl Can ambassadors would work alongside the activity zone, but their pure role would be making sure that girls are involved in the This Girl Can campaign throughout the year. So making sure that girls are represented, so it's not just a week, it's a whole year. The girls-only sessions, if there's demand for them, that they are run throughout the year, because we had an amazing attendance for that. I think over 26 clubs and societies set up sessions, but with, for example, 44 sports clubs, there's a lot more that we can do that. There's a lot more that we can engage with them, and the This Girl Can ambassadors, that would be their core role, to get sports and societies involved in promoting females in sport.
Excellent, fair point. I do agree with you. However, do you think now the emphasis has to be so much more on women as opposed to other excluded groups from sport, maybe such as trans students, disabled students, minorities who might not feel comfortable if a sport is dominated by a certain ethnicity? How will you continue? Like, do we need more pushing for female participation in sport at Surrey? And also, doesn't this further disenfranchise men who participate in sports, particularly those who aren't in sports that are good for mental health, such as yoga or pole fitness?
So I'll tackle the men in sport first. So recently the union ran a series of programmes focused on men in tend to be female-dominated sports. So they did pole fitness did a male session. Yoga did broga, which with cheer did a cheer session for men to get them involved. So the union are already actively doing something. There is, from statistics, there is a demand for females in sport. This campaign is national, so it's something that's nationally seen. In terms of other minority groups, obviously Alexa runs the One World Olympics, which gets other minority groups involved in sports that they may not originally think that they should get involved in. For example, in intramural leagues, get groups of people together from all different backgrounds to compete. For example, football, they do their own intramural league. And for example, for trans and non-binary students, that would be something that I'd approach the Liberation Committee about if they felt that there was a demand for it. And disabled students, for example, Beth, who runs the wonderful Be Visible charity, she, on the Sports Zone as well this year, she'd be a fab contact for that. But in my Giving Sport Back to Students, it's supporting students in bringing local clubs to support a variety of alternative activities. For example, there was discussion about having a wheelchair basketball session that we collaborated with an outside club to promote disability in sport as well.
Finish. So, you discuss sports and development. And you discussed having a student week for Samaritan's Therapy. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? And then also, will you just tell us a little bit about your welfare reps?
Okay. Firstly, it was not the week, but it was something more to do with support for students through societies and sports clubs, and that's why I wanted welfare reps. Welfare reps are going to be trained students in a non-signatory or signatory position. Through the Look After Your Mate training. And what I want them to do is they basically need to make sure that their members' welfare and their committees' mental health and welfare is taken care of. And the student space for therapy during the week, actually, it's during the weekday with Samaritans, is something to do with having students to have a free space, or the welfare reps getting students to student members or the signatories to such a space which is invigilated by the Samaritans or a person who's trained enough from Center for Wellbeing to for them to talk about stuff, just a space to be free instead of waiting for the Center for Wellbeing to give an appointment or go to Safe Haven or somewhere outside the university. So I wanted to introduce a space in the university for students to be able to feel good about themselves, or just
Okay.
Can I quickly jump in there?
You may.
Is that all right? So as well, I think encouraging committee welfare officers as a whole, which is mentioned on my manifesto, I think it's a great idea that you want to do it for a week a year, but committee welfare officers provide the year-round support. It would provide the same support for students, so couldn't just be limited to once a year.
Can I also jump?
Everybody jump in, yes.
Jump.
I don't have a manifesto point specifically on welfare officers, but I do just want to say you want to make them compulsory, am I right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't.
You don't. Sorry, was it? So I disagree with making them compulsory because that could cripple smaller societies who struggle to even find 3 signatories. So that would make things really difficult. Lizzie, it's great that you want to encourage them, but we sort of encourage it already, but also great that we want to encourage them, but I don't think it would do the job enough. British wants to do it too much.
George, would you like to sit in my seat?
I'm sorry. I'm coming to my point. My idea is, it's not necessarily on my manifesto because I had it after I wrote my manifesto, but I would like to create a system where members can go to the union, say that they want a welfare rep for their society, and then the union advises the signatories that they should probably bring in a welfare rep. That way you go straight to the source instead of telling the SIGs.
Can I make a very quick... I'm just going to make a very, very quick response to that.
Please do.
We're just going to debate it within ourselves. I understand your point completely. It's great. Obviously, the word encourage is very different. For example, Musical Theatre Society have a committee welfare officer. I've spoken to him. He said that how it's a fab role. And I've said to include it in gold stars. So this makes sure that those committees and those sports and societies which want to fulfil the Stars Award, they will still have guidance. We won't just leave them on their own. We have Look After Your Mate training. Bless you. We have look after your mate training, which committees have now, so they wouldn't completely be left on their own to make the decision. We would support them from the outset.
Okay, I'm going to close the topic. Okay, so no more from Lizzie and George about committee welfare reps. Thank you. Ridish, okay, so as George pointed out, this has the potential to disenfranchise some of the smaller societies who already struggle to get their full-time members.
I did not say that I want a compulsory new representative.
But you did say it'd be signatory or non-signatory, so which one is it?
So being a signatory or non-signatory, this would be a position that would be added to their position already. So if it's a social rep or a treasurer, they would have another name, welfare rep, attached to them after they have done the look after your mate training. But that is something Alexa put in, and she wanted all the societies to have one representative who is trained, and that is my intention, to make it compulsory so that they all have some sort of training and they all can help their society members and signatories with mental health. That is literally my intention.
Okay, we move on to George.
Hello.
Okay, so you talk about collaboration and online collaboration. So what is this point? Can you expand a little bit on it?
Yes. So currently, the union is thinking of bringing Microsoft Teams into societies and clubs, and that's great. But I also want to look at grouping certain clubs together that could have similar interests, so that you increase collaboration, and that's essentially what I would want to do using Microsoft Teams.
So what would be the main difference in using this platform as opposed to societies that collaborate outside of it? So as Solomon did mention in the Surrey Society debate, yeah, we'll go with that, that they also have large collaborations such as Mediterranean Night, Asian Night, Latin Night. Sports clubs do collaborate with charitable events. What would be different? So I would assume that clubs that do want to collaborate will do regardless. What's the difference? How much more would they cooperate using this online platform?
It would increase collaborations with those societies that wouldn't necessarily think to go to each other. And it would also, not only that, you could get, say, one group where you've got this society is grouped with this one.
Easy motion.
Sorry. And then you've got this society, which is also grouped with this one. They could all figure out something to do. Sorry, lots of hand gestures, but essentially it could create more collaboration opportunities and ideas.
Okay. Okay, we will take a question from the floor. Oh, that was an immediate hand. Yeah? Mike? Oh.
That was a good catch.
Thanks. Since January, we've had the closure of the green room due to the Surrey Hive coming in and accommodation services and employability and careers moving in there, which has meant a loss of space for a lot of societies and sports clubs to host events. For example, MadSoc, MT Musical Theatre, we use it as performance space. Quizzes, just from my experience, I know Harry Potter Society used it sometimes. Christian Union Society use it. Poker, I'm being told. So what would you do as VP activity to ensure that space for societies and sports clubs for events such as this is maintained and is kept as a priority for the union?
Lizzie, would you like to answer first?
So I've actually spoken to the activities manager about the Hive space and obviously the green room that is currently being used for the people that would normally be in the Hive. So there's not been any clear clarification on it, but as far as we understand, as soon as the Hive is up and running and those groups move back into there, the green room will be made available back to sports and societies. But this kind of looks at a wider issue of space for sports and societies on campus. So, for example, Dodgeball recently had the famous asbestos issue. So it was quite a struggle for us to be able to find training space for all our members. They were really keen, and we had to keep apologising, so we tried to get Surrey Sports Park space, and because it's so busy, it was quite hard. This then links us to my manifesto point.
Lizzie, we'll get you to wrap it up quick.
That's fine. Of emphasising emphasise the importance of students' priority at SSP, so society and sports will be made a priority for space if they request it, and also working with sports and societies in the longer term year plan to any big productions or events they may have so we can fit them in.
Keep your answers very brief, please.
Me?
Yeah, do you want to answer?
All right. So, yeah, I do understand that the green room has been changed into an employability and careers office, and I was pretty surprised as well because I was planning to have an event as part of Bollywood Society talent show, but yeah. What I actually would like to do is look for various. I mean, as personally as a president of Bollywood Society, I have always had support from GSA regardless. I mean, they haven't given us too much leeway for room spaces, but the issue here is how many spaces we do have and we still cannot access due to maybe timetabling or due to, I mean, even with Sports Park, you don't really get those facilities. So yeah, I would like to work with these, I'd say, authorities to make sure that we can find more space in the week to actually allot this, like get a replacement for a green room or any other event, big event that you want to have. So yeah.
Thank you. George.
I think Ridish and Lizzie touched on basically what I was going to say a bit there. I think Ridish spoke about GSA. That's quite an important point. GSA is encroaching a heck of a lot on the university, and it's sort of creating a bit of a distance between the two, and that's obviously something that needs to be addressed. Yes, spaces really are an issue on campus, and I would really definitely want to look at maybe asking GSA how they can timetable their schedules around looking at the Ivy Art Centre, looking at PATS. There are spaces out there, we just need to ask for them.
We will take one more floor question. I see Alex, the current Team Surrey chair, is very eager. Please keep your answers to 30 seconds or less, preferably less, but you know.
Just a quick question, briefly. Should the sports park be a public space, and can you explain why to your answer?
Let's go first, Lizzie.
Yeah. So as we know, Surrey Sports Park is used for a lot of different things. We have outside teams such as Surrey Scorchers and the Surrey Storms that come in and play, and they bring in a lot of, when they have their big games, they bring in a lot of fans and a lot of the community. So to directly answer Alex's question, I would say yes, it should still be public, because we support a lot of schools that come in for their swimming lessons. We support a lot of external charities which then come in and collaborate with our societies. For example, Movember, Dodgeball collaborated with them to that's back to promoting men in sport and mental health. As we said, we support communities, we support external teams, so some of our Team Surrey players will go on to play with these teams, which is a great outlet for them. So yeah, I think we should still be kept public, but the priority should be shifted back to students.
So, I did get a lot of information from Alex himself and also from Katie Bauer regarding why it should be made public, because it does work efficiently as part of University of Surrey Sports Park, but they do make a loss in every year, and despite of the fact that they endorse or provide spaces for 4 franchise. Is that, yeah. Yeah, so they provide a platform and training space for 4 franchises. They still come out at a loss when it comes to student memberships, and and also the student support student support budget that they give out. So that is why it is really important that the Surrey Sports Park is made public so that other people from Guildford can access it as well and can maintain the I'd say like can even out whatever if they have lost from any sort of loss that they get from student support.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Guys, I know this brick wall is really entertaining. I laugh at it myself. However, when the candidate's up here and you are laughing, it is a bit nerve-wracking. So please keep your giggling to a minimum. And George.
That was a good night. So, yes, the Surrey Sports Park should be kept public, but we have to be careful with it, because if we make it too public, we create animosity to our students. But the reason it should be kept public is, one, money, and two, it gets better relations to the outer community of Guildford.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so I just want to move on slightly more to... Right, so I have a question for Ridish. Ridish, you have your strike policy, which is quite strict, and you're very firm in what you believe. Do you think it's acceptable to miss EGMs?
So, okay, let me just tell you the truth. So yeah, I'm going through academic issues, I'm going through mental health issues, and I spend the whole night just putting up posters in Manor Park for 6 hours. I woke up and I decided that I actually wanted to, I actually was the first one out of the AGM list to put in my name for every AGM that was in my hand to go through. But the thing is, I missed one because I didn't put it in my calendar. I apologized for it, and I had the second one in my calendar, and I think I took it at the last moment, and it was just out of help, maybe just out of, I'd say, like, I mean, because I know Kat emails everyone, and there's a lot of issues where everyone cannot participate in an AGM, so I just thought I'll take it up on me, and yeah, I missed it, but I was there at 5:30, Lizzie knows about it, and better late than never, I still tried.
Quickly jump in one more time, sorry. Very, very quickly.
Very brief.
So yeah, I was lucky enough, I managed to do the Women in Physics EGM, but Ridish and I have had a couple of chats about it, so it's been nice because I think all three as candidates we managed to support each other through the process. But in my defence, Ridish saying that he was the first to put down his name for EGMs. As a nursing student, I don't know my shift timetable for the next however long. It's very uncertain for nursing students, so a lot of the time we do have to wait, our shifts get changed. So that is something that I want to make sure that the union remember, that FHMS students, it's a completely different timetable, it can be sometimes in completely different circumstances. So, yeah.
Just a reminder, candidates, can you not mention names of union staff? Your responsibilities are your own, so please do not implement them in anything. Lizzie, that you mentioned that, so is this to do with the fact that you have not signed up to any AGMs at all?
So I have looked through the AGM list, but my shift pattern due to Surrey Decides has had to be very flexible. So placement have been fab. I encourage anyone that wants to run for a position like this to talk to placement. I'm still currently waiting for my shifts, so we do short blocks of shifts. So we have 4 weeks and then a 5-week and then a 12-week sign-off placement. So my next placement is 9 till 5, Monday to Friday, which often means that a lot of the AGMs are during the days I don't get back till late. I am unable to, but as soon as I get my 12-week sign-off placement timetable, I will be looking into AGMs because these are important for societies to keep running.
Okay. George.
Hello.
Hopefully on the wall an image will appear that I wish for you to explain.
Oh, goody. Oh, yeah. Did you watch the video?
I did not watch the video, no, because you deleted the post.
I won't answer then.
You deleted the post.
Oh, yeah. I'm allowed to comment on something. It says not a huge fan.
So do you agree with the lower comment?
What?
Do you agree with the title of the video?
Which means, yeah.
You do?
No, I said she made some interesting comments. I didn't agree with the title of the video.
So do you think posting these kind of things will necessarily, so for people that didn't watch the video, give off a really bad reputation and image to someone who is supposed to be pushing inclusivity, especially around females?
No.
No?
No, it's creating conversation that should be had.
You say so?
But not by diminishing the importance of girls.
Absolutely not.
Okay, that's fair enough. You answered. Okay. We will now move on to another floor question, and then we'll just do some more manifesto points. So does anyone else have a question? Yes, is that Holly?
Wow, very sorry. Wow, I never catch anything. Go dodgeball.
It's dodgeball coming out.
We love dodgeball, we love dodgeball. Sorry. So usually, I've been here for 3.5 years, and usually VP activity candidates are typically generally more sporty. Can we agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just what's the status quo. I think for the majority of you, you guys are all mostly society candidates, and I'm really happy about that. However, what is one thing that you would do? What's one thing that you would do to support sports clubs, and Team Surrey specifically? And can you all say something different?
Try.
So who'd like to answer first? Can we have George, actually?
Yeah, sure. So it's not on my manifesto, but I was thinking that I would like to have a look at diversity within clubs. Now, this is a very tricky thing to do because you've got teams which are all based on merit, and then you've got the social teams which are a lot less so, but it's the teams that are advertised a lot more. And these, in some cases, can end up not being quite as diverse as we would like. Now, one way to look at this is marketing certain clubs on their social side, not on their team side. That's one way. But also, I would quite like to look at how we engage in groups of students who would not necessarily feel like they could join up with society. Usually, they see a society and say, oh, that's not for me because I'm not represented. Why don't we get sessions so that they are surrounded by people who they who they relate to, and from there they're much more likely to join up if they're joining up in groups. That's from my experience as well, because I have been in that situation being expat.
So yeah, first of all, I'm just not part of a society. I have been captain for the university's table tennis team for 1 year, and I've been part of the second team. So that's 2 years of being in a sports club. And so yeah, secondly, I think it's more to do, I'd say, to help sports clubs. There are small sports clubs that do need more, I'd say, encouragement and exposure, which I'd like to work on. And also, there is timetabling, which I came to know from just a student by the bus stop who told me that, he wants to get engaged into more sports activity, and he cannot do it because most of the activities are are during the week. And so timetabling would definitely be something that to encourage more student engagement for sports clubs and for Team Surrey activities. Thirdly, I don't know, I'd say maybe having some sort of forum. So having a sports forum for sports clubs would be a good way for students, like we have the voice forum through course reps. It would be a good way for students to voice their opinion about what is happening with sports activities and what's happening with play sports sessions with performance athletes, and for I'd say the Team Surrey Bucks event, like what is exactly happening, so they'll know more about it and they can actually put their input and help out. So yeah.
So going back to the poll survey, it has shown that 40% of students get involved in regular sports clubs in comparison to 56% of students in societies. So there is an evident gap in potentially the promotion of sport. So giving sport back to students, making sure Saturdays are free for bookable student and society activities and Sundays free for social sport. That would be kept every single week so students will know, right, it's Sunday, it's social sport day, what can I do today? Do you want to try tennis? Do you want to try archery? It keeps that consistency throughout the year. Going back to the timetabling, as Riddish mentioned, making sure that sports and societies are able to keep their training space, to keep that consistency. I think that's the number one way that we can support sports, putting them out there, using the social media channels, and yeah, just consistency in the level that is provided from sports and the time and the space that they are given. Sorry.
Now, all of you have a mention of committees and training to some extent in your manifestos, and you've all discussed it. So, you were all sent out copies of the pulse survey, the finance budgeting, etc. Basically, a load of important documents that you should have read. Can you all write down for me how much is spent on training, cost-wise, and hours spent in training? And if you can name the types of training that you do, that'd be fabulous as well.
Is this for students?
So this is committees. How much of the finance budget is spent on training, and how many hours are spent training? Hold them up.
Oh, wait. Sorry.
I got as far as the hours.
I didn't get as far as the hours.
Okay, so you are all correct.
I didn't put the hours, but I can tell you.
Yep, so you're all correct, and it's £5,000 spent on training. Do you want to all have a guess at how many hours?
26.
26? No, it's not correct. George?
I would hope around...
Oh, you mean the training?
No, just the training.
I thought the preparation behind the training. I'm sorry.
So the committee training in total?
The committee training in total. That would be about 4 hours. 4 to 6 hours.
No.
I'm going to be wrong.
I would have thought around 8 hours.
8 hours?
I go a lot higher. I probably start going up into the 20s, 30s.
36.5 hours.
Oh my days.
So, how do you all, so very, very brief, I'm talking like 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds. How do you propose to improve on all this training? How will you make it so that people actually attend this training, as opposed to changing it round?
I'm actually, on one of my manifesto points, I want to change the way we do training. Usually we call people in on a Sunday, which they don't really want to do. They're not terribly attentive. And it's usually stuff that they either already know or is completely useless. Why don't we just make some tutorial videos that you can refer to when you need them and refer to people where they need to go? Those aren't videos.
No, but how would you make so that they would actually watch the videos as opposed to taking these and reading them?
Because it's a lot easier to find a video online than to remember where you left your handbook.
Fair enough.
To be fair, I don't want to be like, I don't have a conflict, but you do get this online as well. Just saying.
Can I come back with that, actually?
Yeah, go for it. Go ahead. Just let me speak.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, with the training, I do agree a little bit with George to have it online as well, because there are definitely ways where you can give out booklets, you can give out, it can be online as well. And I still know that despite of this being online, there are students and signatories who do not know a lot that is on that society or team Surrey booklet. So yeah, it's a good way to put it out and make sure that students do follow up on their training and and they know what has happened physically. But despite that, I don't think there's anything to change despite of the engagement itself. Just having everyone know about it and having everyone get trained, like all the signatories. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And Lizzie.
I think it goes back to that whole theme of engagement, so actually talking to sports and societies about what training they want, what training they think is going to benefit their societies, because if they think it's going to benefit their sport or society, they are more likely to become engaged. And those current ones, for example, look after your mate training is fab, really good mental health training. Potentially looking at making it more engaging rather than you as committee members sat in a lecture theatre watching a slideshow. Make it interactive, make people want to get engaged, make people want to kind of get involved in it rather than just thinking, oh, it's another lecture that I've got to go to tick a box. Actually make people want to do it and keep people engaged.
And the question you have all been waiting for, you can write it down or you can just say it. Who do you want for your president? One word. Okay, we'll start with George.
I haven't decided yet.
Fair? No, that's fair. That's fair. British?
On the basis of what I've seen so far in the year and what this person is capable of in the future, Gemma.
And Lizzie?
I think all three candidates are fab, but just for the diversity of the things on their manifesto and the different aspect they'll be able to give to the union, I go Wes for Prez.
And that is a wrap. So thank you very much for coming. Well done to all the candidates. You did absolutely fantastically. Can we give them another round of applause? And please join us tomorrow for the VP Voice, so the Voice Zone, Union Chair, and the presidential debate. Well done, guys. Very well done.
Welcome back to the front room for our last little segment of the night. And we've just had our three candidates for VP activity, and they did do extremely well. There was some very intense questioning, and what was really good to see, I think, was a little bit of debate between the candidates themselves. That's something that we really encourage, and it was a whole load of stuff there. So I don't mind where we start. I think there was some talk there about the cost of the sports park and access to facilities and training times. That's something that we've been talking about tonight. And there was this discussion about whether or not the public should be in there, about the franchises. Mark, unwrap some of these big issues for us, as far as you can.
Where would you like to start?
Yeah.
They are all synergistic. They can work. It's just deciding on the philosophy of what you want to be first and foremost. And obviously, from a student point of view, it's always has to be students first, and that's very much what we espouse as well. So therefore, we start with, right, let's put students in, let's fit all their training times in and get people back from King's and make that for your students, see what that costs, and then you work up from there. So how many members do you need to cover the cost of this, and so on and so forth, and add the layers up. But if you put students in first, you then just add those bits. So they can all work perfectly well together. Got to add up how many weeks a year are students actually here using the facilities. You know, there's a big chunk of space pretty much from Easter. You know, some clubs still train a bit, but the volume has dropped off massively from Easter all the way through till mid-September. That's a lot of time to do public-based activities, whether it's events or external clubs coming in and doing stuff.
What sort of stuff happens at the sports park that students don't necessarily see outside of term time?
A lot of kids camps, so summer term camps, whether that's franchise-based from Storm or Scorchers. Could be some events. A couple of years ago, we had the Lacrosse World Cup. That was 2 weeks. So big events like that are perfect. Doesn't affect anybody. Doesn't affect our pitch time. So something like, what's a good example? National Schools Lacrosse. That's happened for the last 3 or 4 years. Comes at a bad time of year for us because it's February, March. We have to stay off the pitches or reduce our volume of matches on pitches, which is key bucks time because we can't do anything in exam periods. So actually, summer-based activity is far better than some of the stuff in term time. So it just requires a bit of careful planning. But if you, again, very selfishly, if we want to put the students in first, which we've written a timetable for, so let's put that in first, and then we can build that back up from there. But you then do the maths on what's student sport costs, and then you do as much public stuff as you need to do to kind of balance the books, if you like.
The other thing that was mentioned tonight, of course, was the problem of space for society activities. I should probably pick something up, a comment that was made, that I think it was said that GSA are encroaching on the university. We should point out GSA are a part of the university. You know,
not a separate entity, no.
No, not at all. But as there's more demands on the timetable, and as this guy come along and steals your green room, and then of course Uni Hall has its unfortunate problem with asbestos, you know, we really do have a problem with student activities being shoved to the sideline. You know, how much has this been an issue for you this year?
So this has been a massive issue specifically for societies, because majority of clubs are off campus or off of SSP or are using SSP. So the impact that it's had on dodgeball, on a lot of the theatre and performance based societies, as well as those that do weekly socials there, has been massive. We've been trying to deal with that, talking to kind of those high up making those decisions. I think it was just a case of a lot of things going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, not going wrong necessarily in the Hive situation, but it probably wasn't the decision that I would have gone with, but where do you put them?
No. People need access to careers and employability.
Yeah.
That office needs to be, you know, worked on. So
yeah, but from my point of view, I don't think the university actually considered how much it is used by students. I think there could have been other alternative ways of going about it. So we did push back on the university about that. Obviously, unsuccessfully, it was going to go ahead, whatever we said. Maybe I could have been less complacent about it, but I think that it's something that's not going to go away. We're going to continue to have vet students coming through and students coming through these longer courses. I know that we've kind of frozen student numbers and we might see them going down, but we're going to see a struggle with space, and it's something that VP Activity does have to be really put their foot down on and be quite strong on.
Because again, this is this real tricky balance between being the Vice President who is in charge of representing students who are active, but also a VP of the Students' Union representing students. And of course, you know, do you cut off your right hand or your left hand?
Yeah.
You know, people need to remember that if a society is looking to use a dance studio, there are some GSA students that need that for rehearsing for their course, because that's their course, that's what they're here to study.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not as if the case that people don't have access to the space and nothing's happening with it. It's just there's so much more things happening, and that's been something we've been talking about, of course, tonight.
I was just going to say as well, with it's been quite. I put my other hat on when I was in the Students' Union at the beginning of the year, working with election in the activity zone. It's been a really big year for us learning what space is actually out there.
Yeah.
So we did actually get a little bit more space with GSA this year to put clubs like dance in there, to put some societies in there, like K-pop, which has been great. We've got some extra hours there, which is something that wouldn't have happened. We've got like the Austin Pierce building. I think we found there's a really good space in there that we're starting to explore, that we can put some of our club and societies in as well. So we have started to identify other spaces around campus that we can just better utilise for what they were built for. And it's good to know that, I know I seem like the bad man in the room, but the green room is coming back online. We will be getting that back.
That is a temporary...
It's a temporary
decant, as it's called.
Absolutely, and the space as it was with, I think, accommodation and careers was very much just a drop-in, drop-out transactional space. And hopefully now when we do get the Hive online, it will be another space dedicated for students, where staff will be going elsewhere around campus to make more room for students at the heart of campus. So hopefully in the long term, it is a very, very much a student-facing project that will give students back the space that in the green room.
Talking of space and students, there is something that we should say, is that behind this wall, there is a derelict room, a very large derelict room. And I think 4 or 5 weeks ago, Alex Harden pushed very hard at the Estates Committee and secured a very substantial 6-figure sum of money to have that refurbished into society storage. So it's all going to be made safe. The work's already started on it, and it's going to be 24-hour locker storage space for student societies. You know, the groups like Pole Fitness, who've had their poles urinated on for several years now. They've put up with a tremendous amount of hardship. What else were we talking about there? There was so much they covered. Again, people talk about This Girl Can, diversity in sport. You know, this is another constant challenge. It was something that was talked about when the sports park was even first created, you know, and the change of facilities and that sort of thing. You know, you've seen these campaigns come through. What sort of interesting work is happening over the last few years on diversifying sport in your eyes?
Certainly one of the bits of work Karen's done a lot on SSP is really highlighted our accessibility. So we've won an award from Guildford Borough Council around our accessibility levels, looking at setting up a new accessibility session for swimming with a local club with a session that happens currently. So I think SSP it has done a bit on that front. There's definitely some work to do with clubs, I think. I know there's been a chat, we had a chat with Solomon and Karen earlier in the year around increasing inclusivity. And actually I think a lot of it sits with clubs. I think it's a bit of a two-way process. It's not just a case of, oh, we need to do this or we need to do that campaign. It's about making it. So one of the things you said to Solomon is, if you asked all the clubs, are they open to was it transgender or LGBTQ+? Actually, most of the clubs I think would probably go, yep, yeah, we do. They wouldn't know whether they are or they aren't, but they wouldn't see why they weren't.
Yeah.
So actually, it's maybe a bit of an awareness campaign. Is it something specific societies can help say, do you know what, these guys are great. This is a great club to come and join. Is there something that lots of people can get together, their heads together, rather than saying, oh, it's the clubs have to sort this out, or as you said earlier, there's 4 white guys trying to talk about activity. Like, there's probably collaboration across lots of different chunks of society to try and tick the boxes that everyone keeps saying, oh, we've got to be more diverse and we've got to do inclusivity, but what are we doing about it? Are we waiting for somebody to do something, or are we actually going to get several different parties to come together and do something?
So on that, Solomon has actioned that. So he came to the last sports standing and he's actioned all the clubs to actually look into what their national governing bodies say about trans inclusion with regards to the kit that you wear, what level you can compete to, and then, so as you suggested to him, he has gone to the clubs and is collating that from them. So I think that's a really positive thing that is currently happening. It shouldn't just be him driving it, it should be, hopefully all the clubs will be like, yeah,
getting behind it.
I can just see all of our guys saying, well, yeah, there is no reason why they couldn't. Obviously, there are issues around NGB rules for playing and stuff like that.
It's about awareness, it's about them knowing.
Exactly, and actually
available.
I think with a little bit of a nudge from Solomon and some of his help and his knowledge, actually everyone can really make it accessible next year. It could be a great collaborative project.
It allows you to put on a lens you might not have thought about before. Like you said, completely raising awareness, and when people then put that lens on to go, actually, I haven't looked at my club or my society through that lens. I think it's hard to do anything about it.
The clubs have been really good at it. So we started with the Team Surrey conference at the start of this year, having the Liberation reps run their training sessions, their breakout sessions. We had an LGBT one run by Solomon, a disability one run by Monique, and I believe Paul ran the cultural awareness one because we couldn't find any of the Liberation reps to do that, but he took that one on.
The whole conference.
So it was all about inclusion. And then from that, we've seen lots of clubs doing collaborations with the LGBT society and with various different societies that represent those minority groups. And I think that's where it really comes from, is having those collaborations. Clubs and societies are not diverse. We know that the LGBT society covers LGBT students. It's about them then accessing other clubs and societies. It's about making those collaborations.
At the start, there was a moment in there. There was a discussion about the obligations on a part-time officer. It got a little bit sticky around about Riddish and EGMs. I think perhaps this is something make clear that there are some things, there is a job of work to be done. There are 200 groups that all need an AGM over the next sort of 5-6 week period that requires a union official to come and do it. It's quite a drain on their time, really, isn't it?
I think you're exactly right, Alan. It's one of those things that I think something that in my year, the union chair of my year, Sam Bryant, did really well and started introducing was accountability panels for the part-time officers as well, where you've had some of them up to 400, 500 students put their trust in you to do the job, even if it is only a part-time job for that year. And so you should feel obliged to go out there and achieve the stuff you not only said you're going to try and achieve, but also to do the bare minimum at least in the part-time officer role, and that is the EGMs, that is being there at your zone committee meetings and offering your thoughts, helping out at events. Like, you've got to do at least that stuff as well to be an active member and part of the union. And I think some people, in my experience, who've been part-time officers and haven't quite grasped that there is that bare minimum to do, they're like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I feel like I haven't had any kind of contact despite the fact I've been a part-time officer. Well, the impetus is very much on them to go out there and get involved, because the union's busy. It's really, really busy.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges we always have is part-time officers staying engaged. And you've got to be driven if you're going to do it as a volunteer, because you've got so many things pulling you in different directions, and there's nothing tying you to doing it other than you putting your name on saying, I'm going to do this. And so you've got to take that really seriously, I think.
Now, if you come down to the front room, over in the corner, you will see a list of presidents, and you will also see a list of honorary members. And in that list, you'll see a name, a man called Barry Hitchcock. It may not be a name that many of you recognise, but Barry, for many years, was the Director of Sport here at the University of Surrey. And Barry was really the man who had the vision for Surrey Sports Park. So if you can imagine that if you arrived at the university, what is now the Ivy Arts Centre was the gym, and what is the Harlequins training ground was effectively the social area. Barry was a huge advocate for student sport, and it was his vision and his drive and his passion and his dedication that eventually gave us Surrey Sports Park. It is with tremendous sadness that we learned that Barry passed away, and this Thursday at 5:30 at Surrey Sports Park there is a short memorial for Barry. And so if there are any students that remember Barry, know Barry, Thursday at 5:30 at SSP is when you can come along, and there'll be lots of his family and friends there to hear things about him. Mark, I don't think you worked with Barry, but you certainly knew him. He was a big part of campus life.
Yeah, definitely. And even though he wasn't there to oversee the opening of the sports park, obviously it was his vision. I think if you chat with Dave, his son, who still works, he's head of operations for the sports park, he'll tell you how many years it was in the planning, and him and Derry Caleb and lots of other people were talking about this for a long time, and eventually it came to fruition. But it's not just that, it's the other good work he did. So things like Saturday Sports Club that him and Sally Eady set up, still runs, still very much student run by trampolining. Those sorts of projects were very Barry Hitchcock projects. It was just people getting involved in sport of any levels, whether they're able-bodied, have a disability, whether they're disadvantaged, can afford sport or can't. It was all just about participating and getting people playing. Even though he was, he played a good level of basketball himself, he was a good athlete, so he had that performance aspect to himself, but he was very much about all people getting involved in activity.
Dan, he was a huge role model for any student looking to get involved in sport as well.
He was indeed. He was he's in my SAB, he's one of the union trustees as well. Just an all-round lovely guy. He'd have a great deal of time for anybody to come and have a chat. Very busy man, very important in the world of what that he did. But very fond memories of Barry. And as Mark said, he really did pave the way over quite a long time. Before I was a student here, of that vision of making sure that sport and activity really can be for anybody. And despite the fact that the sports park is a beautiful facility, it's to try and break those barriers when you walk in, that that this is for everybody. And I think it's almost part of the design of the building that when you go in, you can see squash courts, you can see an arena, you can see a climbing wall, you can see the swimming pool, to try and make sure everything that when you walk in is there. So even down to the design of how it looked and felt was in the vision of trying to get as many people to come and enjoy that facility. So a very influential and just genuinely lovely man as well.
So, to paraphrase Christopher Wren, if you seek Barry's memorial, look around you next time you're in Surrey Sports Park. That's it for tonight. Tomorrow night, it is all about students having a say and the leadership of the union. We go on to VP Voice, Voice Zone, Union Chair, and of course, Union President. Have a very peaceful night, and we will see you back at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. Good night.